Good morning, everybody. My name is Dominic Bullock, and this is my senior presentation. So for my overarching metaphor, I chose to talk about the book Where the Crawdads Sing. And there's three main points that I'm going to be talking about throughout this presentation. And those 3 points are new beginnings, crossroads, and change. And I'm going to be explaining this throughout my standards this year. So for my first standard, I chose technology through the ideal of growth. And for my first artifact, I chose a brochure that we had to write in sophomore year. And the goal of this brochure was to give tips and helpful information to anybody about the topic that we were writing about. And the topic that I chose was to write about using electronics. And the tip that I gave, zooming in, was don't use electronics at least an hour before bed, which is a very helpful tip, but it's only one, so obviously it's not. So clearly it's not as great, because having more tips is more helpful. And there's plenty of room for growth. The color scheme is very different than what I would normally do, and the pictures could be set up a lot better. So for my second artifact, which shows true growth, I chose it from the same year, the same class, communications class, and we decided to write about a national park brochure, and we got to choose any national park that we wanted to. So I chose Kobuk Valley National Park because it's a beautiful place, and I'm very passionate about it because it looks very nice. And as you can see, on the right, I have contact lists, and then the pictures are set up more nicely, and it just looks more neat and organized. And there's still room for improvement, but it looks significantly better as I have more information. And zooming in on one of the things, I wrote about a couple more tips. I wrote hiking, fishing, boating, bird watching, photography of animals, and camping, which is 5 whole more tips than the last brochure. And just seeing that growth from 1 year is really cool. What I learned through this is how to write more interesting facts, how to do color coordination, picture assignment, and how to have more interesting tips. And I also became better at color blending and how to develop a normal professional brochure, which goes into my life because I'm going to go into forestry, and I'm going to have to be able to write a brochure on certain national parks. So my overarching metaphor connects to Where the Crawdads Sing, and it connects to new beginnings because just a background on the book. So Kaya is the main character, and she goes through all these changes in her life. And in the new beginnings portion, she gets abandoned by her family at a very young age, so she has to learn how to develop and grow through that. And that just connects back to the growth. And that also connects to my high school career because of how much that I'm growing in my life. And my second standard is English under the ideal of achievement. And I chose to talk about poems that we did in freshman and senior year. So this is the very first poem I've ever written in high school in freshman year. And it's a very easily understood poem, and it needs metaphors, as poems are often deep and complex. And it's very base layer as far as complexity goes because I didn't really talk about anything out of the ordinary. And so I chose the first 2 lines to discuss. And they say, I wonder if anybody ever thinks of a little boy whose name is Charlie Brown, which it just shows that he's thinking of if anybody ever thinks of him, but it's not really that deep, and it could go further. So for my second artifact, I chose a poem that we wrote about in senior year, and we had to write 2 poems for this assignment, and the first poem is based on experience, and the second poem is based on innocence. So experience is, in my eyes, I chose the ages between 14 and 18 when you know what life is like and when you know what you're going to go through, and the topic is divorce. And so it's created senior year, and I have a personal connection to this because I'm in a household of divorce, so it was very easy for me to write these poems. And for innocence, I chose the ages 6 to 10 because you're very innocent on what life is going to be like, and you don't know what the future is going to hold. And it holds a deeper message and level of understanding because obviously it's a more difficult discussion of topic of discussion, and it's more difficult to talk about than just talking about Charlie Brown. So for my zoom in, I showed 2 different quotes, and they're from the top one's from the experience poem, and the bottom one's from the innocence poem. So the only thing I changed was the period and the exclamation point. So, oh, the joyous wonders of life that will be seen, period. Oh, the joyous wonders of life that will be seen, exclamation point. So on the innocent side, he's very hopeful of what life will bring, and on the experience side, he already knows what life is going to be like because he's already lived through it. And what I learned through this is the difference between sensible ground level poetry and intelligible higher level poetry. And it also helped me with my metaphorical writing, even outside of poetry, like in my short stories or in the essays that we had to write. And it also taught me how to create a more meaningful creative poetry and writing as a whole, which connects to my second part of my overarching metaphor Where the Crawdads Sing, which is crossroads. because I learned the achievement of learning from. So in the story, there's a boy named Tate who helps Kaya learn through her life, and she lives in the marsh by herself, and she's very young and very adolescent, doesn't know what's going on. So she has Tate come, and he teaches her how to read, how to write, and how to live life, because she was abandoned by her parents at such a young age that she didn't know how to do any of these basic things. So she moved into the town, and then she ended up going back to her marsh and her comfortable place, but Tate was able to show her how to live outside of her area. And that connects back to my high school life, because obviously it takes achievement to learn through things, and you must fail to learn achievement. So for my third standard, I chose history under the ideal of mastery. And I chose an essay that we wrote in sophomore year. It was about Hammurabi, the Code of Hammurabi, and I chose the 2 introductions for these next 2 artifacts. And I began experimenting with writing, because this is one of the first times that I've ever used a quote as a hook. So it was very, very cool for me to see how it would look. And I also had a strong thesis. And zooming in just on the quote that I used, the first duty of a government is to protect the powerless from the powerful, which that's exactly what I talked about for the rest of the essay. And for my second artifact, I chose an essay that we wrote in senior year in NHD. And NHD is National History Day, so we got to choose a project that we would write about, and we picked it ourselves. And because of this individuality, it led to better writing, because I was more interested in the topic, and I was able to understand what was going on better than if I was just given the topic from the teacher. And to zoom in on the quote, it says, "I do not want a plain box, I want a sarcophagus." So I chose to write about Sylvia Plath, who was a poetry writer, and along the lines of my other standards, I also talked about poetry. So I was very interested in her because she changed the world of poetry, and she also changed the world for writing in general. And she was a very interesting woman to talk about. And what I learned through these is how to master and using quotes as hooks, because these were the first time I used it was in standard or artifact 1, and then the second time I basically ever used it was in artifact 2. And those were the only 2 times I ever used it. So it was very interesting to see the growth and the mastery that I had. So I also learned the ability to master 2 different types of thesis writing, because in the first essay we did a thesis writing where we would only talk about one thing throughout the whole entire essay. But then for our second essay, we talked about 3 different things in our thesis that would later come on in our senior essay. I also learned how to effectively and efficiently write an introduction, because I would always be very poor at writing introductions until the first essay, and then in the last essay is when I really developed on how to write these. And this connects all the way back to my overarching metaphor where the crawdads sing in the last part of change, because I learned mastery through change, because in my high school career it takes time, and you have to fail forward in order to live life, and you have to change your surroundings in order to become a better person. And that's exactly what Kaya did, where she went out into the town and she learned the people of the town. And even though she got bullied and bullied again, she had her friend Tate who showed her the way of life. And in conclusion, growth in technology helped me, achievement in English taught me, and mastery in history molded me. And throughout all these standards, I learned in my high school life that it also connects back to the book again, because it takes time with growth in the book with Kaya, how she learns and develops throughout her age, and it also takes achievement, how she eventually learns how to read and learns how to write and learns how to talk to the people of the town, because she wasn't very fluent in English and she wasn't taught by her parents. And it also connects back to mastery, because she finally mastered the subjects, and she eventually married Tate at the end of the book, and they remained together for the rest. And that connects back to my high school career, because it takes growth for me to learn how to do what I'm doing in all of high school, and it takes achievement for me to understand what I'm doing, and it takes mastery to know what I'm doing. And thank you for listening. Any questions?
I have a question. You mentioned that Kobuk National Park you're very passionate about that park. Did you mean specifically that park or national parks in general? And can you tell me more about where that passion comes from?
So I really like national parks in general, because I'm a very outdoorsy person and I like trees and agriculture. But I chose Kobuk National Park because I've actually been there before, and it was really cool to see the landscape and put it on an actual brochure for myself.
Where is that? I don't even know where it is.
It's, oh jeez, I haven't been there in a while, but I forgot where it is.
It's like in Idaho?
It's like, It's like east of here.
Okay,
Yeah,
I don't know
sorry.
my national parks, so.
It's been a while since.
Okay.
What do you think is the most important skill that from your senior year you would take into an occupation like that you would use interacting, let's say, with the public?
I would use the ability to, this is another book that we read, but Failing Forward, just because you're able to learn and you're able to grow through all these challenges and persevere. Just like in the book, how she had to learn what she was doing in her life, and I have to learn what I'm doing in my life in order to be a master in any subject.
So I'm a middle school teacher, so what is the one thing that you would tell like your younger self about high school?
I would tell him to explore and adventure, because I never really made these leaps when I was in middle school, but when I was in high school I would do Hooks' quotes, or I would experiment with my poems, or I would experiment with math or English, history, science, anything. I would just tell him to experiment more and test yourself more.
All right, I have a last question. So if there is something in your character that you feel like you've grown and throughout high school, what is one way that you've grown in your character and how?
I would say perseverance is probably the best word to describe myself, because in middle school I was very, I don't know if unpersevering is a word, but I was very unperseverant, and I wouldn't really, like I said earlier, take those challenges or take those leaps. And it was just great for me to see throughout high school how much I've learned and how much I've grown. Yes.
Thanks so much, Dominic. Okay, you guys have probably finished up your rubrics or like asking me questions.
So is there a reason why there's not 3.5 and 2.5 on the first two pages, on the first two? Like,
I didn't do it.
okay, but is it a possible score?
Yes.
Okay, so we can just like write it in. Okay, no, that's okay. No, that's okay. And we just circle like our opinion.
Yes, and then you can give some reading as to like, who's this, or did a great job on this, that's really helpful for
Okay.
them. And then overall. It's very serious.
So it's like really hard. Not that we want to like do it all of her, but I just, should I be like really asking for her?
Wish it would have done it.
I can reprint it if or like I can give you a whiteout or something. Anyways. Cool. Got good judgment. Judge yourself.
For two of them, but.
Awesome. This is my sheet. One of them is using in a sec. Oh, wait.
You want to take my seat, or you want to do it right here? Yeah.
Oh, you're saying?
She's
Yeah.
gonna be sitting in.
Yes, I'll just take,
Oh,
I'll
okay.
take. Thank you. Thank you.
So you're gonna wait till she's done then?
How are you?
You know what I just took back to my house?
What?
When you were in 6th grade, the art month had you guys made, we were reading that book, yeah, about the lying, you know, the kid who lied. about the whole-
Yes, that was a good one.
And you guys made me that, and I was looking at the names, I was like, oh my God.
of something when
Right.
at first we something to the
When
seed.
first we practiced to the seed.
Yes.
Oh, want.
Okay. Elliot, thank you so much.
Can I
I
just keep
recommend
mine
you
for a while?
try your clicker. Yes, that's fine.
Thanks.
Thanks, Tweety. Have a good day.
See ya. Hello.
Alright, do you wanna try your clicker to make sure it works?
It's so old. It's so big.
In just a few seconds.
We haven't seen him since 6th grade. Okay, so I have cough drops just in case.
Okay,
Right, here you go.
Alright, you good, Elliot? Okay. Judges, are you ready? Okay. Begin.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Elliot Shambora, and this is my senior project. I'm going to be using the extended metaphor of climbing a boulder to describe my high school experience. So for my first standard, I chose weightlifting for strength and conditioning and advanced weightlifting. These are two weightlifting electives meant to be taken in succession over the course of 1 year, which is what I did in my junior year of high school. And I chose these classes under the ideal of mastery. And in bouldering, repetition is key. In order to top a boulder, you have to learn all of the moves and master each one of the moves. So you spend a lot of time repeating every single one in order to master them. So for my first artifact, I chose my cycle sheet 1. This is from the very beginning of my junior year. So the cycle sheet is used to plan out every single repetition you're going to do over the course, and then every single set, and list every single weight. So what I want to point out is my 1 rep maxes. Now, a 1 rep max is the absolute limit you can push in each of the 5 compound lifts that you're tested on at the end of the year. So you can see my bench press max is 140 pounds. My back squat is 240, front squat 175, push press 95, and deadlift 285. So this is the very beginning of my junior year, and through the use of 8 cycle sheets total, thousands of repetitions, hundreds of sets, we move on to my second artifact, which is my 1 rep max walk-up sheet. Now this is used at the very end of the year. The walk-up sheet is a spreadsheet used to basically plan out and walk up to my predicted 1 rep max at the end of the year. So you can see we start with the bar at 5 reps, and we slowly move up the weight and lower the reps to my predicted 1 rep max. This is for my deadlift, so I predicted I was going to hit 290 pounds. So we don't always predict the 1 rep maxes correctly, so I pointed out what I actually ended up hitting in each of the lifts. And this is a substantial increase in each of these lifts. So through the repetition, thousands of reps of each of these lifts, I was able to master the form and technique, which allowed me to hit these numbers. And so similarly, in high school, we do thousands of math problems, hundreds of assignments, countless essays and discussions on books in order to master various topics from each of our classes. So moving on to my second standard, I chose math. And for math, I chose the ideal of achievement. And relating to this boulder, I related to topping out the boulder, right? Once you've mastered each of the moves, you do it all in one go, and you reach the top. You've achieved the boulder. So for my artifact 1, I chose my Math 3 Unit 8 test on rationals. This is my sophomore year of math. And you can see Unit 8, this is towards the end of the year. So here's a couple screenshots from the test. You can see I didn't do too well. I got 2.5 on this and then 3 on that one. And the rest of the test, I did really bad. I chose the 2 best problems from this test. And so I picked out a little comment from Ms. Gregg. She says I can't clear the denominator when adding on this expression. And so I knew this test was going to be important going into it because it's the end of the year. So I studied, I thought I was going to do well, but clearly I didn't. This next comment, she asked for my expected values, my answers, and she also asked if I could please finish the problem for her. So I didn't do very well, and if I continue on this path, taking pre-calculus next year, the hardest math class in high school, according to Ms. Gregg, I wouldn't do too well. So in bouldering, there's different styles of bouldering. There's slab climbing, which is a lot more balance-based. And then you have your cave climbing, it's more strength-based. So in bouldering, you need to choose what style is right for you in order to achieve higher grade levels and to actually climb boulders. So similarly in math, I needed to choose a different math class for me to take that I would be able to achieve better grades in. So that leads me to my second artifact, which is from my statistics class. Now I chose to take statistics 12th grade year instead of following the pre-calculus and calculus path. This is my mid-unit 4 quiz. We see a couple screenshots from here. It's obviously much better than 3.5s on these 2 questions. And I actually picked out the worst problems from this test. Everything else were 4s. And so in statistics, we do a lot of interpreting data, right? We do calculations, and then we interpret the data we get in its context. And so here's a comment from Ms. Kennedy. She asks, which way is the data going here? You can see underlined is a negative number, so the data is going to go down. But I didn't write that out, and that's why I got marked down there. And then here she says to write 80.1% instead of 0.801%. So I wrote my answer as a proportion when the question called for a percentage as the answer. It's very minimal errors. So because I was able to choose a math class that was right for me, it suited me a lot better and I was a lot more interested in it, I was able to achieve much better grades in my later years of high school. So moving on to my final standard, my history standard. And I chose the ideal of so what? Where do we go from here, right? We've topped this boulder, we finished it. What do we do next? Well, if we want to progress in bouldering, we're going to be training, and we're going to be dieting. So strength training and dieting is obviously going to help in my bouldering, allow me to achieve higher grades, but it's also going to impact my life as a whole, right? Strength training and dieting is going to promote a healthy lifestyle. So we're going to see how that connects to my standards in just a second. For my artifact 1, I chose my world history class isms presentation. This is my 10th grade year history class with Mr. Surratt. So the isms presentation, we chose a piece of media that we wanted to pick out ideologies from, and we had real world connections to the piece of media. So for mine, I chose Star Wars, because I love Star Wars. And I picked out Stoicism connecting to the Jedi in Star Wars, and then hedonism connecting to the Sith. So here's a background slide on hedonism. Gives some general background information on the origin of the word, and then the creator of the philosophy. And then we have my real world connection slide. You can see this image, not very clearly, but it depicts Great Britain that has this Leviathan spanning over the entire globe, its tentacles spanning across the whole globe. And that's to show the British Empire's massive power that it had at the time. And so that's because the rest of this slide connects Star Wars as an allegory for the American Revolution, right? You have the American colonies rebelling against the British Empire. So while all of this is pretty good, it's not bad for 10th grade. I have a lack of questions for a presentation, and I also have no macro. I have no personal application of the information. So there's no real point in listening unless you like Star Wars. So for my artifact 2, this is from my US history class. This is my junior year with Mr. Jacob. This is my Native American teaching project. Now, this was a group project in which groups were allowed to choose a Native American tribe, and we were answering the question whether that specific tribe's interactions with the United States government as a whole were positive or negative. So my group chose the Navajo tribe. And here's a piece of evidence. This slide has a scholarly piece of evidence on it, and we have highlights and questions breaking it down in order for students to understand what we're trying to get them to learn from this quote. So here's an example of a question. It says, dialogue, so discuss in your groups about the question, will the Navajo be against leaving their land, why or why not? So we gave students background information on the Navajo tribe, and then we told them that, of course, the United States wanted them to move out of their land, and we wanted them to answer, would they be against that? Would they fight against the government, or would they just be willing to leave to the West? And so we used questions to make sure that students got out information that we wanted them to get from the teacher, to make sure they understood and that they weren't being left behind, not knowing what we were talking about. So this second slide is my macro slide, right? We went very in-depth with our macro here. Here's a little snippet. It says, instead of trampling on other people with our own beliefs and shutting out those who do not agree with us, it's incredibly important to understand the importance of the 3 C's, which are clarity, courage, and compassion, so we can go through our lives with a strong worldview and showing others how to achieve the same. So this is an assignment that was just focused on the Navajo tribe and the United States government, but we had this personal application that I'm sure everyone in this room could apply to their own lives, right? We shouldn't be trampling on or just shutting people out because they don't agree with us. We have to dialogue with them, right? Make sure that, which will strengthen our worldview, and potentially we can gain something from interacting with other people who don't agree with us. So what? Why does this actually matter? Well, just like I said, this is just an assignment for history class, right? Why does it matter to my life? Well, I plan on pursuing a career in teaching. So this teaching assignment taught me how to teach a classroom of people, right? Using evidence and questions and having personal applications from teaching. And so as I plan on pursuing a career in teaching, the ability to portray information and educate others is going to be incredibly important. And even if I don't pursue teaching, after college, in any career field that I choose, being able to communicate information is going to be incredibly important. So in conclusion, through repetition, through the thousands of math problems throughout high school, countless assignments, essays, the books written, the discussions, right? And by choosing the right classes for me, whether that be the elective options or the math courses that are offered at Compass, doing both of these things allowed me to achieve great things in my high school career, especially in my later years of high school as compared to my freshman and sophomore year. And doing both of these things will allow me to continue growing my education. Compass's curriculum has allowed me to grow in my education and knowledge personally, and it will apply to my college life and also my future careers. Thank you.
So thank you, Elliot.
Could you say something about what you would plan to teach and how you would go about connecting what you've done here to what you would do in the classroom?
Yep. I would like to teach history and maybe government, ideally at a high school upperclassman level, just because the maturity level is a lot higher. And the things I've learned in your class in government this year, as well as Mr. Jacobs' class last year, have been really applicable to my career. Obviously, learning about government is going to help if I'm going to be teaching government. And then Mr. Jacobs' class talking about like worldview and like personal philosophy is going to be really helpful in my future.
I have a question. You mentioned the 3 C's and how you learned about that in your paper about the Navajo.
Mhm.
How have you seen that in your own life outside of school? When have you experienced the importance of those 3 C's?
Yeah. So the 3 C's, clarity, courage, and compassion, right? You have to have compassion towards others. And when we talked about that in Mr. Jacobs' class, it was like, you know, you can't like not agree with somebody. Like you can't, how do I put it? You have to have compassion for others for like not knowing things, right? People don't go through the same like classes and they don't go through the same experiences in life. So you have to be understanding towards others. Clarity, you have to know things for yourself. You have to like verify things in order to trust them, to put them in your own worldview. And courage, you have to be courageous in life, right? You can't be shut down. You can't stay in your own room all day, you know? You gotta go out and interact with other people. You're not gonna be sheltered for your entire life. So all of those things together is gonna help me in my future.
Thank you. So I'm in middle school,
Mhm.
obviously, and I don't teach 8th grade right now, but kids in 8th grade are deciding whether or not to come here
Mm.
or go elsewhere for high
Yeah.
school. What would you say are the most important factors for them making that decision as to whether or not they should come here?
Right,
Is the
yeah.
focus.
In, well, in 10th grade, I have personal experience with this. In 10th grade, I really wanted to leave Compass, if I'm being honest. And then my following year, in junior year, I mean, I had Mr. Jacobs' class, which was super impactful for me. So I think the curriculum offered at Compass, especially in the later years of high school, is super important for building your own worldview in order to go out and prepare for your future.
Thanks, Elliot. Last question, you had a senior project essay.
Mhm.
Can you kind of describe anything significant either that you learned through the writing process or the research itself?
Yeah, so I wrote my senior essay on dieting, right, the Western diet, which all of us experience. So the research for me was really intriguing because I like nutrition, I like fitness. So being able to research the Western diet and then different diets like the Mediterranean diet, vegan, vegetarian. So it was impactful for me because I got to see all these different things that, I mean, it's applicable to everyone, right? Because we all eat food. So, but being able to research like the most optimal diets for health and then fitness was really interesting.
Cool. All right. Thank you so much, Elliot.
Thank you.
Yes, the squeaking, Mr. Nelson.
Yeah, I'm a little ADD.
No, same. I was also like, oh, we gotta stop it. I can't. Can't make it.
Just move your desk one time.
Was I squeaking? I didn't even notice. I
Very
tune everything
sensitive.
out.
Yeah, I do not. I was like,
I know, those
can't
poor
listen to
people,
squeaking.
I
I'm like,
know, my daughter's the same way, she tunes into stuff and I'm like, what?
Yeah, same. As you guys come in, you're more than welcome to take seats. There's
And then
lots
you
of
comment,
open
yeah.
seats all around the room, so you don't have to stand for 15 minutes. Okay, we we are gonna start your presentation in about 2 minutes, Thomas. I would recommend trying the clicker out.
It works.
Good.
I'm feeling like I don't have time to like fill this out.
That's how I feel when I read all of them.
So do I,
What do I do?
Can I, like-
'Cause I'm just starting.
Yeah.
but he's ready to start. So
No,
can
he's
we-
I'll
gonna
take your
start
time.
in 2.5 minutes.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, great. Now 2 minutes. Yeah, we do try to keep this very efficient.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry if you feel rushed.
No, that's okay, I could, yeah. I'm like,
Okay, I'm done.
I should have won
I
that
can-
today.
I can be done. I have more to say, but you know.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
I know. You can
That's okay.
Oh.
Okay, thank you. So here's another one.
Yeah, exactly.
Little face.
You're like, now it's tall? Totally.
Yeah, do like 3 or 4 at once, and then I can really see what I'm thinking.
That's
through,
so
right?
fair. Even when I did those two, side by side, I was like, oh. Okay, last few seconds, Thomas, before we will be ready for you.
Sweet.
Okay. Please begin.
Hello, my name is Thomas Flores. This is my senior presentation, and I'm going to be extending my metaphor to the gym. And I'm going to be going through growth, mastery, and so what, and what comes after. So to start off, my first standard is English, and the idea I'm going to be connecting to is growth. So starting off my first artifact, we have my freshman literary analysis. This was one of the first assignments I did in my 9th grade English class. Basically what it is, it's just a 1 paragraph short response analysis to an excerpt from a book. The book that we were doing at this time was Fahrenheit 451. And so there's a lot of different skills that we were testing on in this paragraph, but what I wanted to focus on was my quote integration and how I use my evidence. So if we zoom in on one of them, it's pretty terrible. It just says, another piece of text from this book states, and then just inserts. So there's no really flow to it, and there's no like unique introductory phrase, and it just doesn't really fit, it doesn't add to the overall writing ability. So that's why I wanted to focus on my artifact 2, my senior 12th night essay, which I wrote last semester, and it was based off of Shakespeare's 12th night play. So if we zoom in on this, it's a big chunk of evidence, so I'll zoom in again. So starting off with my first piece of evidence, here's my introductory phrase that says, this stays hidden until Viola confesses her love for Orsino during the misunderstanding between Olivia. This was because I was doing my overarching question was, does Shakespeare show true love in this play? So that's why it talks about love. And already you can see that the introductory phrase is so much better, it's improved, and it flows into the sentence instead of just from the text it states. And then also another skill that we were trying to learn through this essay was incorporating outside scholarly sources. So here's an example of mine. It wasn't a very great one because I didn't really include his credentials or the title, but it just says, in a Barsikar's paper about love, and the 12th night mentions that. So basically what this does is it adds to my quote integration and just improves my overall essay ability and supports my thesis even better by including outside sources. So when we look at growth, from my 9th to 12th grade career, I was able to improve my overall writing and my evidence abilities, which growing that grew my entire writing ability and also valuable research skills throughout high school that I can then take and use anywhere. And so connecting to my metaphor of the gym, you start off in 9th grade not knowing anything, just like in the gym, you don't know what you're doing, and then over time you learn how to do stuff. And then right here, my metaphor, so in the quote integration, it improves my overall essay. Just like in the gym, you have different compound movements that use multiple muscle groups. Essays use multiple skills. So you can grow your bench press by doing bench press. You can grow your essays by writing essays. But then focusing on specific muscles to improve the overall compound movement, to improve the skills, will further even more. So moving on to my second standard is history, and the idea I'll be connecting to is mastery. So my very first artifact for this one is my Native American teaching presentation. And this was a 35 to 40 minute presentation based off a previously written SF5 that we did about the Native American Indian tribes. And it was a group project, and we chose to do the Navajo tribe. So the point of this presentation was to not just inform about the culture, the history, their background, but to teach it, to get them to move towards a takeaway, to answer. And we did this through a variety of questions, like context questions, questions about our evidence, questions about our connections, so then we can move towards answering our overarching question, answering our macro questions, which was the big focus. So that's why I chose to focus on my macro slide right here. An example of it, we zoom in, says, what is the big takeaway? How can we connect this to our own lives? It was a pretty simple dialogue question, but we wanted it to move into our other macro questions so they could get thinking. And the word dialogue just means we have them talk to our small groups, they discuss, we call them back, and then we call in groups to get a better answer. And so as a result of this, they were able to learn something, and as a result, we got all 4s. So if we go to my next artifact, the Giver teaching presentation, this was my junior year 2nd semester, while the other one was 1st semester. And this one is essentially the same assignment, but this time, our overarching question, which we forgot to include in our macro, which was more of a micro question last time. This one, our macro question, is our overarching question that we want them to answer throughout the whole thing. And this one was pretty easy to make since we also had previous readings and assignments that helped formulate ours. And ours is based off chapters 7 through 10 of the Giver. So if we zoom in on this overarching question right here, it says, how can the lack of memory and reliance on the wisdom of the state affect the lives of individuals? The state just being like the government. And as a result, the class was able to learn something. So as again, we got all 4s on this assignment. So when we're looking at mastery, 4 in Compass Standard is mastery. And also another definition of mastery is having so much knowledge of a topic that then you can then teach it to others in a way that they understand, which I was able to do through these presentations, and allowed me to improve my macro writing abilities that I can use for the rest of my high school experience, and then I can take anywhere, because being able to find that deeper level connection is so much more impactful than just writing a simple micro connection. And I also developed a new presentation style. Instead of just information, I was able to teach and have them take away something impactful from the presentation. So this relates to a metaphor of the gym, because after growth comes mastery, and after you stop growing, you're still growing, but you're basically having so much knowledge, you're getting your form dialed in, you're getting your diet dialed in, you know how to work out, so much so that then you can teach others how to work out in a way that they understand. But you can't work out for them, you have to work out, you have to teach them in a way that they can take away something, just like in here. So moving on to my final standard, we have apprenticeship. So some background on apprenticeship is, it was on our junior year 1st semester, and basically we would take a list of different careers that we wanted to go into, and then we'd go an apprenticeship for them, and you had to get 40 hours, and you could either split this up through multiple, or do all in one. Now I procrastinated pretty hard on this one, so I had to cram all my last 40 hours in the last few weeks for this. So I only had to do one.
So the one that I did was the Idaho State Department of Transportation. The reason I did this is because I knew someone that could get me in there, so that was easy. And it was something that I was kind of interested in, civil engineering. I was just interested in engineering as a whole, but this one helped me show like a specific one. And so I'm going to be connecting to this, why this matters. So starting off, my first artifact is my apprenticeship contract. So this was just a contract that lists out a bunch of goals and tasks that you hope to complete during your apprenticeship. So if we zoom in on one of them, it says basic understanding of bridge structure design, and then some tasks right here, testing, looking at data, designing, using machines, which I was able to do most of those. I got to like test materials and use some of the machines, which is kind of cool, because they just focused on roads and bridges, kind of civil engineering, so not too crazy. It was a little boring, but still a cool experience. So then we have my artifact 2, and this is my apprenticeship evaluation, which is just the evaluation that comes at the very end. So after you finished all your 40 hours, there's a bunch of questions that they ask about how you did, and a little rubric about how you did on a grade standard. So we can zoom in on a few of the ones that I got 4s in. They said utilize task and time management skills, and then use effective communication skills and or conflict management skills. So I was able to do this, and it was a overall great experience, because at the start of my apprenticeship, I was like, I do not want to do this. I don't really want to get on my 40 hours. I don't see the purpose. But then doing my apprenticeship, I saw that, oh, this does help me, and I did not like civil engineering at all. Actually, I didn't like engineering in general. Did not want to do that. Did not like the education. Didn't like the work environment. Didn't like the work styles. That wasn't for me. And so from here, I was able to change my career choice, and I wanted to change to something like more hands-on, more that impacts people, more helps people, and that's what I wanted to do. Just like in the gym, there's so many different careers. Just like in the gym, there's so many different ways to train. You have like strength training, you have bodybuilding, you have body weight, like calisthenics, you have cardio, all these different ways. But you have to experiment with one to find the one that best suits you. Just like if you experiment with careers, you find the one that just best suits your future. And when I came into apprenticeship, I had a fixed mindset. I didn't really see the point. I didn't see the greater message. But then after doing it, I saw how this really does help my future and see what it's like working. Just like in the gym, there's more to just lifting weights and being healthy. There's also, you learn other skills such as like discipline, time management, consistency. You learn confidence and so many other skills that you wouldn't see just from looking at it. So moving on to my conclusion, this ties it all together. And this was a concept that I learned in my very first year of high school, and it's the concept of failing forward. Being able to fail, but then use that failure to then go and succeed, and use that to learn and grow, because without it, you wouldn't be able to grow, you wouldn't achieve mastery, and you wouldn't find who you are and your worldview and what you want to do in your life. And failing forward can be applied to anything, school, the gym, and overall, anything in life. So thank you for listening. And I welcome questions.
Thank you.
So have you landed on anything that you think you'd like to pursue as a
Oh,
career?
I'm gonna do firefighting. That sounds really awesome. I want to like help people. So yes.
Very nice, okay.
I have a question. You mentioned that you procrastinated really hard on your apprenticeship. What did you learn about yourself through that process of procrastinating and then doing it?
Well, I learned that you should not procrastinate, obviously, but also because I could have learned more from if I didn't procrastinate. I could have like gone and done more apprenticeships, done different careers that I wanted to go into. But then I also learned, what I wanted to do as my future career, and I learned that I did not like just doing a bunch of math and stuff. So.
This is kind of a nervous experience for most people, and so is firefighting when you're in the heat of the moment. What would you take away from what just happened with you into a potential career you may be looking forward to?
So in here, I learned a great deal about myself, and I also, that's a good question.
Kind of puts you on the spot, like an emergency situation, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I can take all my experiences that I just grown from this and the ability to use it and be able to fail and then move forward with it, and then.
That's good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll leave it at just 3 questions so the judges have time to write some notes, so 3
Oh,
questions.
all right, sweet.
The next one will start at 53, so you have 4 minutes.
What time, 53? 4 minutes is fine.
My presentation, we can't have our phones up like that. Yeah. Correct. Okay, I would, if you want to measure one more to Christmas. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, but buy that like old fashioned one.
Like the truck kind.
Yeah, the ones where you just put like start and stop. Yeah, that would be super good. Yeah, uh-huh.
You said something about 5 minutes or 5 something, and I couldn't hear.
Oh, I think I just said his time was 9 minutes and 45 seconds.
I haven't been writing that down.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. No worries. You're good. I got it. The other kid just got it, so don't worry about that at all.
Yeah, so if I were to write it down, it would go here.
Yep. But again, we all have it, so it's really not. You can focus on there.
I know, I was like, oh yeah, I'm like, government stuff, and then I wrote replies, and I was like, I actually can't think about anything until after I was like, yeah, no, nothing else started working. I started working, I like,
I'm trying that quicker, Kaden. And you're gonna start at 53, so you still have like 2.5 minutes. Can you shut the door, please? Alright guys, we're about to start. Please get in a place you can listen. Got our 3 judges. Wonderful. Alright. We're ready when you are.
Alright. Hello everybody. My name is Kaden Galushkin, and it's my senior project presentation. My extended metaphor is creating a video game, hence the name High School Leaking. So creating my high school experience. So for my first standard, I chose apprenticeship, and to review that again, we had to basically job shadow somebody for 40 hours in a certain occupation and learn more about it and whether or not we wanted to go through, pursue it. And the ideal I chose was making connections, more specifically making connections to my future. And the part of my metaphor I'll be doing is an idea, because everything always starts with an idea, and an idea is an investment in your future, in creating a bigger future. So my first artifact is my final reflection newsletter. It was after our apprenticeship, and it's basically like a formal paper of all our thoughts, ideas, and experiences in the occupation. I would like to highlight my third goal, be able to leave the apprenticeship with a new understanding of the occupation and the passion to pursue it. It is a clear and achievable goal with my future in mind. I was already thinking about how I will be able to use this in my future, apply it to my future and my desired occupation. And I would like to highlight the tasks as well. Manage the coordination and overall integration of technical activities in architecture or engineering projects. The tasks I found will be applicable to my job occupation in the future. Whether or not like I'll use every task or not, it'll still be useful in, you know, discipline and learning new things. And this new experience I found in apprenticeship will be used as future reference for me in my occupation as well. And my second artifact is my information interview, in which we had to interview somebody with a similar occupation as the one we were going into. And I would like to talk about the table on the side, and it has like a compiled data of the occupation, the skills, tasks, and the pay, the job openings. And I researched every one of those to come to conclusions about my career choice and how I might persuade myself to change jobs, occupations, future occupations, and what I'm studying in. And I would also like to talk about is it a match, my reflection to the interview. I was making connections to my desired future. I was already trying to see whether it aligned with what I wanted to do in my life and how I wanted to go about it. And using this information as future reference, I can using this as future reference, I can make decisions about my job and my occupation and how I might go about it. An overall reflection idea. The idea is getting the idea. This made me realize I wanted to keep pursuing my job and make sure that I work towards a bigger future and a bigger idea. And so for my second standard, I chose history with the ideal of growth and learning your tools. Because you need to learn your tools before you start making your game. So my first artifact is my Changing Face of War slides, which I'm gonna be honest, this was the only slide I did. It was a group project. There was like 20 slides. This is the only one I did. So already off to a terrible start. As you can see, there's a large amount of words on this. It's all filler, yeah. And so this is the emotional reaction to the technology and what we thought of it and how it changed the face of war. And I'm gonna try and read this. Throughout this presentation and the research, our group had conducted about 3 battles of Ypres and the use of mustard gas throughout the height of warfare. We have concluded many emotional reactions to this information. yeah, I had an emotional reaction to it. That's basically what that's saying. It makes no sense. It's incoherent. It was very rushed. Like, the one slide I did, I fumbled it. Contrary to my American Indian presentation, as you can see, it's still lengthy, but has a better format. This was a teaching presentation, so we highlighted things in a better way so that we can condense the information and teach it in a way that's better and for everybody to understand. It makes sense. It's coherent, unlike the other paragraph. And it's well thought out and planned. We have our highlights, we have questions, we have analysis on the questions. We tried to give as much information while also keeping it simple for everybody. And to reflect on this, learning your tools, you need to learn how to grow and grow. Me specifically, I grew in teaching and creating my slides and presentations in a better way that would make it for people to understand. I leveled up my slides and my information and ability to teach. My third and final standard is technology with the ideal of so what. And my metaphor here is you made a game, what now? So in senior year, this year, first semester, I did Aviator TV, in which we recorded and edited videos of the morning weekly announcements for school. It was showed to everybody. It was very enjoyable. Like I came into it thinking I was so nervous. I was like, I don't really want to do this. I was doing it for credit, but I found it very enjoyable, and it taught me a lot of handy computer tricks. Editing software, recording, and taking all the data and putting it into a nice little video for everybody to watch. And it helped me come out of my comfort zone. Like I said, I was very nervous. I did not like the idea of being on camera for everybody to see. And it was very enjoyable. I learned a lot of new things, and it helped me come out of my comfort zone. Also, in Media Tech 2, the Lightroom photography that we did, we had to take photos and edit them in a certain criteria, like as if we were photographers, and people would ask us to edit photos. This helped me further my tech knowledge, just having that knowledge in general, whether for like a hobby or to teach somebody else or just for fun, it's very, very helpful. It helped me see the bigger picture as well, because when editing, you're focusing on what criteria you want, like what small details. Like for instance, in this I had to edit the light, but I couldn't take away from the bigger picture as well, because the big picture is important. Because in editing, like a little goes a long way, and it's adaptable. These skills I learned is adaptable to details and visuals, seeing the details and things and visually making it appealing. And to reflect on this, you made a game, so what? All these new tricks and skills I learned, what do I do with them? Well, while they might not be helpful in my future occupation, just having them and knowing my way around technology already helps me in my desired occupation, which is programming, and I will be studying computer science. So having this and knowing my way around technology will help me a lot in my future. Conclusion, what have I learned? Well, from ideas, try new things. Try and, whether it be a small interest or a small idea that you have, pursue it. Apply yourself to it and make something great out of it. Also, keep learning. Keep growing and learning new things to help you pursue your ideas and interests. And finally, apply my new knowledge. Apply it to my future occupation, my future desires, my future goals, and making a better future for myself. Thank you for listening.
when you do a presentation, obviously we all get nervous in front of everybody. What do you do to get prepared to knock it out of the park when you stand up there?
I try to clear my mind. Like this morning when I was driving, I was listening to loud music, trying to clear my mind, just get it off anything else and just lock in, you know?
Yeah.
So Compass is obviously a different school than the majority of schools out there. What about Compass and being here has helped you do things specifically for you to move forward and be college career ready and ready to face adulting?
Yeah, so like I said in my presentation, my favorite part was apply yourself. Compass has taught me to try and stretch out for things, like apprenticeship, go for that, try and learn new things, apply yourself to your goals and desires, learn more and apply it to your future. That's Compass has taught me that more than any other school.
Okay. Last question. What is one way that you think you have exemplified or learned growth mindset? And give a specific example, please.
Growth mindset. So, Aviator TV specifically, like I came in that with a fixed mindset. I just wanted to go in there with the credit, like get the credit, get out. But I found it very enjoyable. Learning all those new tricks and software really a switch just flipped in my head. I'm like, this stuff's cool, I want to learn more now. I want to grow. I want to keep doing video editing as well. Not as an occupation, but just as a hobby.
Okay. Do you think you're going to carry that mindset into the future in some way?
Yeah, of course.
So just like not being shut down to new things or different people's ideas and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, thanks, Stephen. Okay, we've got 5 minutes.
Did you? I didn't see what the time.
Sorry, it's 10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm not sure if this is going to be.
See what I was doing?
Yeah.
I haven't been
I like consistency is important.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like a detailed rubric too, which is
Yeah.
helpful once you do
Oh,
generals,
yeah.
but the first time you do it, you're like, ah,
Yeah,
it's
where was that?
disorienting.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, I know. Try to create it, but I previous years I had a much bigger rubric for
Yeah.
judges,
Yeah.
but then I noticed that they were just like,
Where do we put this?
where do we
Yeah,
exactly? And
yeah.
it was like, all right, so now's a good time to test the clicker. Okay. Yeah. Alright, Rochelle. Just take a deep breath. Okay, judges, are you ready? Go ahead, Rochelle.
Alright, my name is Rochelle Hammer, and welcome to my senior presentation. So my extended metaphor is learning and the general process of crocheting and finishing a project. Alright, so first we're going to talk about math, then both Japanese 1 and 2, then English, and we'll go over the conclusion. Alright, so math, I connected it to the ideal of growth. Alright, so this assignment was a statistics worksheet that I did in 11th grade, semester 1. And it basically required us to read over information and find the statistics involved with these students and their pets, like finding the percentage of how many had certain kinds and deducting which pets were preferred over others. And this assignment, even though I got a good grade on it, it was not completed very well. For example, I was very vague with all of my answers. I would use phrases like, it seems like it would be correct, or it could be correct. That's just a vague way of being like, yes, this basically could be possible, but that's up to you to decide. So it would get covered and marked as correct without being fully correct. And it was pretty much meant to be misinterpreted, just so I didn't have to go in depth and figure out how exactly it fits in. It also asks to use math to explain how it connects and how it works, except I didn't do that at all. In contrast to this, I have my factoring project from semester 2. And mind you, this class was entirely online, so it was completely self-directed. I didn't have any in-person help. And this assignment, we had to take factoring and explain the process, each step of the way, and explain how it works, mistakes that could be made. And it was significantly better than the other one because it fully explained everything. It didn't leave anything up to interpretation, and it ensured that there was nothing just completely left out. Right, so connecting this to crocheting, it's like the beginning steps of crocheting. Before you even start the project, you have to be able to know what yarn to use, what hooks to use, what hand positions you like. And before you get a grasp on that, you can't really begin. And that connects to my first artifact where I didn't really know how to start. I was so vague and left everything up to interpretation that I didn't have a basis to start on. But once I was able to grasp what I needed to learn, I was able to improve and start beginning that process. The second standard is Japanese, which is connected to mastery. And this first artifact is a reasoning worksheet that I did in Japanese 2, which I took in 11th grade. And just a little bit of background on why Japanese is as difficult as it is it uses 3 separate alphabets. And by this point, we were expected to have memorized 2 out of 3 of those. And the second one we had only been learning for about a month, and we didn't use it nearly as often, so it was really difficult to learn it. However, despite this, I was able to get every single character correct, and the only mistake I made was I forgot one character that I already knew. It just slipped my mind, and I had completely forgotten to add it. And for each of these, the reason why this assignment was so difficult is because we had to answer with personal answers. It wasn't just, oh, you know, they asked this question, this is the exact answer. We had to insert our own personal reasoning into these sentence structures, which I was able to do without any mistakes. Artifact 2 was a reading worksheet that we did the same year, second semester. It required us to read over this section and try to find answers within the passages. And I was able to do so without any mistakes. I understood the entire thing and was able to answer in English, which is surprisingly difficult when you're used to answering just in Japanese. And just to further prove this point, I also added something that I got in Japanese 1 the first semester. And it was a contest that we did where we had to present the skit in front of the entire class. And I'm not super confident in my presentation skills, but despite that, I got this award. It says, this award is to recognize your excellence in Japanese pronunciation and effort for the conversation contest, and to commend you for your language skills. Now, even though my group did not win, I was the only person to get a personalized award for this, and it was something I was super proud of because we had only been learning for just a couple of months, and I was able to complete this. Alright, so connecting this again to crocheting, this is like being able to complete the project, but not just one, because to fully master being able to crochet, you need to know multiple different skills. You need to know how to use different yarns, how they're different from each other, learn different stitches, be able to use different hooks. You can't just use one to make a successful project. Standard 3, it's English, which I connected to the ideal of so what. So for this first artifact, it was the 11th grade semester 1 outcomes assessment essay, which was the final for this semester. And it asked us to research and analyze the benefits and downsides of facial recognition and why it might be helpful and what problems it may cause in the future. And with this, I was able to recognize, say, like, the invasion of privacy that it might add, as well as some issues that don't affect me personally. And one of these is this section where it says that facial recognition in court cases is commonly used as well as finding suspects, and its inaccuracy towards people of color is very dangerous. This is because there are disproportionate arrests of black and brown people in almost every category of minor offense. I was able to recognize and acknowledge this and be able to understand why it is so important. Even though it's not something that affects me, not something that comes to mind immediately, I was still able to recognize it and realize that something needs to be done about it before more issues come out from it. And then this second one is the outcomes assessment essay from semester 2 of 11th grade. And it asked us to look over all of the assignments we had completed for that semester and find some of our flaws and some of the things that we did well as just realizing some of the issues that we have covered and just kind of acknowledging all that we had done. And similar to my last artifact, I mentioned that I was able to see the perspective of more marginalized groups and find solutions to the issues that they face. And this was in regards to a project that we had done on improving our communities and finding ways to help people that need it, like helping people with disabilities or lower income housing, and just being able to ensure that they have what they need, even though, again, it's not something that personally affected me. Now, this is like after you are done finishing your project and you have mastered all different kinds of stitches, everything that you need to learn. But you need to finally do something with that, because you could just leave them around your house and never use it and just acknowledge, okay, I did this, but that's not going to get you anywhere. There's no point to that. So with this, you are able to help other people, just like my last artifacts, and you can help them by either gifting things to them that they may need, like clothing, or you can even, help them to learn the same skills as well, so that they are able to follow in your footsteps and can even learn faster than you did some of the things that you may have made mistakes on, or some of the things that may have been missed by other people. And this can also be done with people that you may not even know, because you can say send it online and people will be able to learn from it, and even recognize if you show your own mistakes, they can see that and learn from their own mistakes, even with things that they aren't related to crocheting. You can learn that for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Rochelle. We'll ask questions in just a sec.
I have a question. My daughter crochets, so I know only a little bit about watching her. What is your favorite thing to do and make, and why?
So far, I've really liked making flowers particularly, because I like gifting them to my family. And they're just fun because you can do so many different things with them, so many different techniques. And it's nice to be able to just see them around the house and enjoy them, even after you're done using them.
I love the flowers also, the slide, it caught my attention. Did you learn how to speak Japanese also?
I did, yeah.
Could you say something nice to us in Japanese?
Not on the spot, probably.
What if you were just to greet us, like we just walked into each other's lives, and you were to say what?
Sorry, I'm not good at Japanese.
We won't know if you get it wrong even. Konnichiwa, or something,
Yeah. Could also say my name, like Rasheru desu ka, then ask, like Name wa desu ka? Just very simple things. But
Okay.
yeah.
And what does it mean?
Smart.
Basically just, my name is Rochelle.
Uh-huh.
What is yours?
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thanks. Awesome. Thanks, Rochelle. Okay. Last question. What is something you've learned recently, either about yourself or work habits or an interest, and how will that impact your future once you graduate?
I feel like I've learned that I am a lot better at difficult tasks than I realized. So I've always known it. However, it's a lot harder to just act on it in the moment, because you think, oh, this is this huge task. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. But once you actually get down to it and stop putting it off, I've realized I'm actually pretty good at it.
Good. I would agree. Okay. Thank you so much, Rochelle.
Till later.
Until you come back and do it. I don't see 22, 25. Alright, next one starts in 5 minutes. So we'll be coming in hello.
It was super cool. Like, I think the problem is I just want to sit and listen, and I can't take notes and listen at the same time. So then I'm like, afterwards. But it was. I need to learn. I need to learn that skill apparently.
It is a tough one.
What was that?
It is a tough one.
Thanks. We'll see you later.
Yeah. All right, Caitlin, I'd recommend trying that clicker now. Yes, beautiful.
Alright, my name is Caitlin Holdeman, and this is my senior project presentation. Throughout my presentation, I'm going to be connecting my standards and lessons to the 3 acts of a story. First, my first standard is community service connected to the ideal of mastery. And my first artifact is my community service log from 9th grade. In 9th grade, we were asked to complete 40 hours of community service and log it in a timesheet. In 9th grade, this was quarantine for me, and I needed something to occupy myself, so I joined the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council of Meridian, otherwise known as MIAC. We were asked to, it was a group of 9th through 12th graders who were focused on leadership development, community service, and government affairs. As you can see here, this is my community service log, and if we focus here, the green highlights are all activities and hours that were associated with MIAC. As you can see, this was the large majority of my hours, and I learned a lot about community service and discovered that I had a passion for it. I also ended up completing 43.5 hours, and I probably would have done a lot more. And we had meetings every week. So I discovered that I had a passion for community service, and while I didn't know a lot at the beginning, I still was able to grow and learn more about community service. I also ended up running for the community service vice chair at the time to increase my involvement. My second artifact is the election candidates list from the 2022 through 2023 school year. This was also in MIAC. Right here is that screenshot of the election candidate list. I decided to run for the vice chair this year because I wanted to increase my involvement again and have more of a hands-on role. In the elections, we're allowed to run for 3 positions, as you can see indicated by the green highlights. I ran for the vice chair, community service chair, and community service vice chair. The elections, as you can see here, if you are elected to a position, then you're automatically removed from consideration for the other remaining positions. So I only had 1 person run against me for vice chair, and they were the only person running for chair, so I ended up running unopposed. But I was able to gain more of a leadership position and guide others to help others and have more of a role of teaching others about community service and mastering my knowledge. Overall, my community service and my role in MIAC demonstrates how I have a strong commitment to community service. I have mastered volunteering, so I can now support others to then help others through the hands-on roles I have been in. And also in my everyday life, I tend to encourage others to be involved in the community because I have discovered and explored my passion for it. This connects to the 3-act structure, specifically the first act, or the beginning. Community service in MIAC was the inciting event and the exposition for my high school journey. It was what set it up. Without MIAC and community service, my high school journey would have been a lot less successful and I wouldn't have that strong foundation. My second standard is my growth mindset, connecting to the ideal of growth. My first artifact is the compare and contrast essay from IDLA English 101. This was during the first semester of my junior year, and I did not think I would do well in this essay at all. I had a very fixed mindset, and the essay was simply to compare and contrast the similarities and differences between 2 pieces of media, for example, children's books. And I had all my materials together. I had already checked out the books and everything, but I didn't think I'd do well, so I procrastinated and let it slip by. As you can see here, this is the first paragraph of my compare and contrast essay. And that due date, highlighted in the purple box, is actually a month after it was due, and a week before the final portfolio was due. I only did this assignment because, well, it was a 0, and I needed to do the essay in order to do the final portfolio and pass the class, so kind of had to do it, finally. And as you can see here, highlighted in green, this is my thesis, which was a decent thesis at the time. I said that modern society has an evolved definition of family, and children learn beliefs, morals, and societal definitions through media such as books. Again, a decent thesis, but I just procrastinated and had that fixed mindset. My second artifact is my Science in the Media essay from my first semester of senior year. I took Chemistry 100 because I am historically bad at math and math-based courses, and I did not want to do the higher level chemistry class. In this final paper, we were asked to analyze a piece of science fiction technology and a piece of media and determine how feasible or realistic that science fiction technology would be in the modern world. I was going through a lot at the time, and what I like to think of as my family's 3-month period of bad luck with totaled cars and hospital visits, but I did it. I had more of a growth mindset, and even though I thought I'm really bad at math and chemistry, I approached this with more of a growth mindset and grew in my development of my growth mindset and set out and actually completed the essay instead of doing it a month late. Here we have one of the first paragraphs of my essay. I chose to analyze Apex Legends and a character within it. Apex Legends is a video game I enjoy playing, and I talked about one character and how he utilizes holo devices to send out holographic decoys and confuse enemies, and then how he also has the ability to cloak or turn invisible. And then I connected that to modern day scientific technologies and techniques. I connected it to specifically machine learning, holography, and active cloaking. Because I approached this with more of a growth mindset and believed that I could learn and grow from my mistakes even if I didn't think I would do well in the assignment, because I approached it with that, I ended up receiving full points on this essay, which was a big shock to me because I did not think I would do well. But I was able to receive those full marks because I had more of a growth mindset. Again, this connects to the growth ideal because I had that prior fixed mindset, which leads to procrastination and staying up late at night doing my assignments, and academic failure. But through growing my growth mindset, I have acquired perseverance as well as a desire to grow and learn from my mistakes instead of doing nothing. And this in turn leads to even more growth and success, as I have demonstrated high grades throughout my high school. This connects to the second act of my 3-act structure because it was the climax and the middle point where the stakes were the highest. I had a lot of different circumstances happening at the same time, but I had to push past this obstacle and the higher stakes in order to move on and push through. My third standard is my apprenticeship, which I connected to making connections. My first artifact is my first supervisor evaluation for my apprenticeship completed during junior year. Normally, you have to complete 40 hours during your first semester of junior year, but due to extenuating circumstances on both sides, my person that I did my apprenticeship with had a lot of health emergencies with their family. So I ended up completing 20 hours during my first semester, and then I did the rest of the hours during my second semester. So the person that I did my apprenticeship with for my first semester, her name is Pamela Johnson. She is the volunteer coordinator for the Meridian Library District. I chose to do my apprenticeship with her because, one, I was interested in volunteering, and I was also interested in books, so it seemed like the perfect combination. This is a supervisor evaluation that she filled out at the end of my apprenticeship to essentially grade me on how I did and note positive comments. Specifically, she said that I demonstrated flexibility, empathy, and understanding, and that I was attentive, responsive, engaged, and I asked her a lot of questions. Overall, pretty good skills. And she also said that I had gained an impactful relationship with the staff, which set the foundation for future projects with the library. Overall, I was able to make connections because I realized that working at the library was pretty fun. I got to volunteer and observe different community events and programs, and it was overall pretty enjoyable. My second artifact is my second supervisor evaluation, done at the end of my second semester of junior year. I did the second half of my apprenticeship with Jenny Liebig, who's an associate librarian with the Meridian Library District. And I was only able to complete 9 hours of my apprenticeship, so I only ended up completing 29 hours, but it was because I got hired. So I had to pause my apprenticeship a couple of different times because I applied for 2 different positions. And once I got the position to be a library page, which I still am to this day, it's policy that you can't volunteer and work at the same time. So in her supervisor evaluation, she said that, again, I demonstrated thoughtfulness and empathy, much like Pamela pointed out, and that I asked good questions and shared insightful ideas, specifically around accessibility and community service as we were discussing the new library branch that is focused on accessibility. Additionally, she said that my knowledge of the library services and systems developed over even both semesters, and that I understood their values and mission and really had a good connection with them. Overall, I was able to make connections to my current career path and understand that this is something that I would like to pursue, at least right now, and possibly for my future career path overall. Despite circumstances, I was still able to succeed overall and make connections to my my current career and my future career, as well as my post-secondary education. And I gained information and strengthened skills that will affect my career path and make connections to other jobs should I choose to pursue them. Additionally, I can now strive to carry these strengthened skills, such as empathy, through my everyday life, and also demonstrate flexibility. This connects to the third act, or the ending. I was able to reach this resolution and sense of finality with my apprenticeship, as I was able to make a monumental decision regarding my career. Not only is this a part-time job, but I was also able to determine a field that I really wanted to pursue, and even if it's not for the long run, it was still that decision point, and it was really important that to me and significant as a way to mark the end of my high school journey as I look towards the future. Reflection and connection. What do community service, growth mindset, and apprenticeship mean in the big picture? Overall, I landed on success. I learned that I have a passion for community and that I love to help and teach others through my community service. I also learned that I have the ability to grow and learn from my mistakes, and as well as persevere. And then in my apprenticeship, I also was able to reach those decisions, evaluate what was valuable to me, and learn important skills, and ultimately reach a resolution. All of these are important for my academic excellence and my high grades throughout high school, as well as my excellence in other areas of my life. And I can now build interpersonal and lasting relationships with others and communicate effectively. And overall, this is important for not only my career path and my life and post-secondary education, but my entire bright future ahead of me. Thank you for listening.
All right, thank you so much, Caitlin. We're gonna have a moment, and then we'll ask you questions.
I noticed that in the state of Idaho, a lot of people end up running unopposed, like yourself. How did that feel in terms of taking that position?
When I first ran for community service vice chair, I also ran unopposed, but my social anxiety was so high in 9th grade. Like, I know my voice is shaking right now, but when I ran for community service vice chair, I was holding a fidget cube the entire time and like shaking so badly. And that time, I was also really grateful I ran unopposed, but I think it was valuable to run unopposed because, one, I didn't have as much pressure, but I also think I was able to realize ultimately that I had more confidence in myself, that I still think people would have chosen me even if I had run against other people. So,
Thanks.
Okay. You go. Okay. Can you describe a book that you've read this year in or outside of school, and why you found it valuable, impactful, interesting, any of the above?
So it was actually in your class. Frankenstein was really impactful for me. I really liked doing the annotations, and I know a lot of people found them tedious and everything with talking about the human nature and humanity, but I really found Frankenstein valuable, even if it was a bit scary at the end. But I did like learning about like human nature, like are people born good or are they born evil, and it was really interesting to me, and overall I think it was valuable for me to learn as a life lesson.
you mentioned your current and future career path, and it sounds like current is librarian, but future maybe not.
Right now, I'm still working as a page, so I shelve and straighten books, and I find it really rewarding. But overall, libraries, especially in Idaho, are kind of like challenged and everything. So I ultimately want to work with the community and everything. So so right now my plan is to go to VSU and study psychology, which I still believe that psychology is very applicable for everyday careers. So even if I go on to get a master's in information library science and decide to become a librarian, I could get my undergrad in anything. So I think psychology would still be beneficial and valuable because I would learn more about people and how they work.
Thanks so much, Caitlin. I was like, okay, we're ready. And then, so. We're gonna start in about a minute and a half. More minutes. It does not work on the screen right now.
Do I press it? Yes.
The light?
Yeah. There's no button. Oh, I see the button.
It doesn't work on the screen.
I like that.
It is very fun, I agree.
is Zoe Curzon, and I'm going to be presenting my senior project, Now's When My Life Begins. It's from Rapunzel, or Tangled, the Disney version. And I'm going to start with my table of contents. I'm going to relate my first standard of math to the ideal of growth, and then her leaving the tower, and then my next standard growth mindset, and then making connections relating to the Snuggly Duckling, and then research essay and achievement relating to seeing the lanterns, and then lastly, so what relating to the Lost Princess, just her whole journey as a whole. First, I'm going to start with my first standard math and growth, and then relating it to my pre-calculus class. This was my junior year class, so last year, and right here my artifact is a resource that we were provided at the beginning of the year to track our grades on tests and just to see how we did or what we could change, and it just really was a power score that we had so we could manipulate it to see what grades we needed to get in order to end the class with a grade that we wanted. And so here I'm going to highlight this top portion, and these are the averages for each reporting standard that I had, and it goes all the way from this is the top portion that shows what I averaged in that class. And then the red, that is my ending grade, which is a 2.8, which translates to a C in the class. And obviously you can see that I wasn't really doing all too well, but there were areas that I was doing well, but overall just was really struggling. And then moving on to my next artifact, this is from this year, calculus. It's the exact same resource that we were provided where we plugged in our test grades into this thing, and it would give us our grade that we had in the class. So this was last semester, and as you can see, I was doing considerably better. I ended with a 3.65, which translates to an A in Power School, and just overall was doing a much better job. And then relating both of these to growth, Rapunzel was stuck in a limited world where she couldn't really do much, and similar to pre-calculus, I was limiting myself, and I was unsure about what my capabilities were, and just wasn't really willing to try any new things because where I was comfortable at. And then relating to Rapunzel again is that Flynn came into the tower and she was provided a situation where she could grow, and she took advantage of that. She self-advocated for herself that she wanted to leave the tower and explore more and see the floating lanterns. And moving on to my next standard of growth and mindset and making connection. This right here is my first artifact of freshman English, where we were asked to write about certain fables that from different cultures and how we could apply it from our life. The name of this essay was called Duty, because we talked about what responsibilities were in different cultures and how we could apply it to our lives. I chose these two paragraphs because they were my conclusion paragraphs, and they gave me a really good overview about what I was trying to talk about and trying to get the point across. And here, I'm going to highlight this specific portion. I'm going to read it. When fulfilling your duty, to when do you draw the line? Throughout many stories and fables, this theme is brought up. Is life worth changing your duty? Life is important and should be valued over fulfilling your obligations and responsibilities. So reading this, it connects to applying to reading their world and how it applies to my world and what I can change in my life to better fit what I want my life to look like, and where I draw a line for responsibilities and just realizing what I want. And then my next artifact is from last year, my junior English class. We were asked to write a topic that interested us, and I'm interested in the pharmacy field. So during this time, I wrote about the dangers of e-pharmacy and how specifically it is a danger for the patients and their well-being. And here I highlighted this part right here, and it says, with local and conventional pharmacies, we can bypass many of the issues that follow e-pharmacy and build relationships and interactions with real people who can make medical decisions based solely on the patient's needs. So in this, I learned you're responsible for other people, that you should treat them like a person rather than just a person on a screen, because in technology we can hide behind it, and so that's really dangerous because you're not going to treat them as a human as opposed to if you were right there seeing them. And this just relates to what my morals are and how I want to treat them even though there is a screen between us, and how that I should have it's my responsibility to do the best I can. And then relating this to making connections and the Snuggly Duckling, I was using what I was learning from the essay duty, and then applying it to not only the essay but in my own life and how I can better myself and keep my morals high. And then relating it to Rapunzel, she didn't give on her morals. Like when she was in the Spencer Declan, which is the bar, Flynn was getting in a bit of trouble, and she still decided to protect him and help him because she knew that that was the right thing to do, and that's what. Because even though she was locked in a tower her whole life, she still had high morals. She had high morals, and she still made sure that she kept them even in a society where everything was different. And then my next standard, standard 3, is my research paper and achievement. And for this, I only have one artifact, just because it was its own. It didn't require a second one, so it just has one. And so I chose my thesis specifically just because it gave a really good overview of what I was trying to get my point across and touched on all the research points that I made. And here I wanted to read my thesis. And it says, fast fashion has many negative effects such as lack of sustainability, harsh working conditions, and general impact on the environment. Although bringing awareness to these issues can be very beneficial, there are many other ways to contribute more, such as turning toward better alternatives, thrifting, and acknowledging and stopping the support of brands that contribute to the fast fashion industry. So we were asked to talk about to research a problem and then write solutions for it. And I chose this one just because it's really a big topic that should be talked about more and brought more awareness to, because there's not a lot of things that you can do to do it on a large scale other than writing about it, because informing people is the best way to get this one, is the best solution for this problem. And it was just a really fun way for me to use my research skills I learned all through high school just to dump it all into one really large essay. And then relating this to my achievement and the lanterns, for achievement, I was successfully able to write 10 pages of condensing all the research that I had done I found a lot of different sources that related to this and didn't relate to it, so I got to just consume a large number of information and just be able to comprehend it and then give it to people in a way that made sense. So that was a really big accomplishment for me. And then just to be able to find issues in the world and find solutions for them is also a really big accomplishment, just making sure that I'm actively participating in my community to make it better. And then connecting it to the lanterns, she saw what she wanted to see. She had a goal and she set out for it, and she was able to accomplish it. Even though she did run into a few problems along the way, she was able to make it there and just have a great time. And then lastly, I wanted to connect to my so what of high school. High school has built me into the person I am, and without it, I just wouldn't be the person who I am. I was able to build a community and become more than what I thought I would be without high school. And connecting it to the Lost Princess, her life experiences made her and her journey, and what she wouldn't be the person she was if she didn't go through that. Like being stuck in a tower, she was able to build all of her skills that she probably wouldn't have if she just lived in the castle. And then connecting to my future, high school has prepared me to be an effective person in my community, to want to do better and to try to do better. And it's helped me to want to help others. And again, to the Lost Princess, it just prepared her to become the princess who has compassion and to lead others, and who has high morals, just someone who wants to better the world rather than just watch it go by. And just overall, high school helped me become a person who strives for greatness, and being here at Compass specifically has helped me realize that I can achieve it, and that nothing is really impossible, that if I work hard enough, I can get it. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe.
Hey, e-pharmacy, dangerous. Could you give us a specific example of why that is? Not so much like, hey, it's better to have personal connection with the local pharmacy, but rather, what would actually be a danger that we should watch out for?
For the most part, it's like privacy issues is a big one, because when you do it online, hackers can get it really easily, and that was one of the main things that I researched, was that people were able to access information and then take it or just abuse it, because sometimes when you're in person, you can tell more of like if they need something or not, so they could be lying just to get medication for something, and that's also a big hazard.
Thanks.
For me, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your senior research essay. So could you talk more specifically about in the research and writing process, if there was something you learned or gained or got better at, or be more specific, if you could, about like things that you learned. So either the writing, the process of writing, or something.
Yeah, so I originally wanted to write about like the sweatshop problems and the big industries just taking over the whole industry, the fashion industry as a whole. But then I came across a lot of information regarding just this, like, overconsumption issues, which I didn't initially think about at first. But then when I got to researching that fast fashion has led to a lot more overconsumption, and it's like we as Americans, we like to overconsume everything, like everything's disposable. If we need something, we'll just go buy it. We don't think about like other alternatives. So I really got a lot of information about that, specifically overconsumption.
Good, yeah, keep that lesson with you.
Yeah.
What's been one of your favorite books that you've read in school, and why?
I'm not a big reader. If I don't have to read, then I don't. But my favorite one, I would say, is Touching the Void. We read it, well, I don't know if we read it in general. I think it was just me. We had like a book topic, we just had we had an essay, and then we had to write about a book that we liked, and so I chose that one. It's just about a guy who climbs up a mountain with his friend, and then on the way down he has some struggles because there's some storms coming in, and his friend ends up hurting himself, and he has to make a decision about whether he should leave him, or if he should go down and get someone and come back, or take him with him. But also this could be dangerous. It's because they were hiking up, so that they both have a risk of a lot of things. So I really liked that one, just because it taught me like to kind of push through, because he ended up trying to take his friend down to the bottom, and so that kind of just taught me like you can push through things, and you can always just try new things.
All right, Zoe, thanks so much. All right, guys, that was our whole first big chunk of senior presentation. So good job, seniors. You guys are now, that's off your plate. You did a good job. I hope you feel proud of yourself. Hopefully you got some stale cold coffee or some donuts if you wanted to pick one up. We don't have enough for people like seniors to get more than one, but if you haven't gotten your donut yet, seniors, you can get that. And then the judges are just going to finish up a few things here, but we are going to take a break. So juniors, you can take a break and then just come back whenever you need to, or don't come back. You don't need to. I don't know what your schedule is. And then you seniors, you can head out when you're ready. Have a great day, guys. Okay. Let's just hide. So,
May I collate these into your
Please
stack?
do, yeah. I've done like a this.
Yep, I can handle it. I can work that out.
Oh, there he is.
feel like you learned some stuff about what you're trying to do and all that. They're all like looking at cars too. They need an editor, you know? I'm like, why is there a apostrophe there?
If I did talk fast, I could still I almost did.
I think it was a good choice.
I also had like no audience members. No one knows anything about the
A lot more
other people, other seniors.
Hi guys. We're ready.
against that. They always say which I'll probably end up saying that too, because it would be the most recent one I've read.
My practice was like,
And I don't know if that's just like actually interested in this, so maybe I'll
That's why.
like, oh great. Remember Ian's judges? Oh wait, it wasn't about, they weren't all mice the whole time? He thought that all the characters in Spell were mice, like it was a fictional fantasy about mice in their own little world. Yeah, I was like, basically. I love how he does stuff. No, yeah, I think we had to come up with a metaphor. And Miss Lyons just said, oh, and this character is like a mouse in this situation. That's it. That's it. Like,
You're so good at it. You gotta make sure you
yeah.
Really? That's good. I'm just gonna have like a full bit.
I'd be fine.
So my goal is like once a girl you got
That's what I was. So I thought I was gonna be fun. And then I got
This is good.
I went under by like 15, 20
Yeah,
seconds.
How are Nelson's questions?
Yeah.
Mine was good. He just asked about like government. He asked like how was my like government industry class?
That random thing she.
And I talked about it.
Okay.
But for his, he also talked about it.
Yeah, I asked her about it and she was like, oh, how does this have problems? It was from
Just finished like.
I mean, because
You like
she's like,
such a hard question.
I don't understand because I uploaded mine to School G and Canvas, so what else?
Yeah, you should mention it.
It's like majors.
All ready for this for next year now?
Yeah.
This actually was helpful.
Yes,
it is good to see it. It's making me more. Yeah, why is there a camera?
It just depends. If yours comes up during a question and ask it, and answer it.
Well, obviously, when she's teaching you guys next year to do, like, she'll pull some of her favorites up and be like.
Rip out.
This is the only reason I'm
This is your senior photo.
And then.
This is the exact.
I know.
They still have it.
I'm sure they do.
That's hilarious.
And then we are live.
You should do that with
Yeah, so it's not like out there though for like.
Johnny watched my
It's
presentation
only
one
for
time.
some
She was like
grandparents,
chatting to me.
parents.
Okay.
Dude, Johnny's going at the same exact time as me. In a different room. Who got this?
No, because I know that my mom, dad, grandma, and grandpa are all gonna make sure I show up. Because my family is like crazy, but when it comes to school and things like that, they're like, we're going. Even if it's just gonna end up making them mad, or even if it's something like in elementary school. I think did you guys have this one? Okay, so you guys went to so you had to do like those choirs and like those performances. Oh yeah, the whole front, my entire family.
60 minutes.
I'm trying to hide something. Well, yeah, you have to stay here for another hour, right?
No, it's not.
2 hours.
10:03. It starts at 10.
Yeah, you have to stay for the rest of your color
Oh,
too, though.
yeah.
We study that too.
Okay, I just want you to
The garbage. Yeah, that's like
Thanks for the support.
Okay, but started will be your judges. Started will be your judges.
So where I stumble is like right here. Explaining this is so hard. The context of that is so
Oh,
hard.
no. I did it. I use my cycle sheet as well. It's just
How did
like-
you explain it?
So the cycle sheet's like a spreadsheet that we use to basically plan out every single route, every single set, all the way through. And you can say that we use, the one cycle sheet covers 1 month, so we use 4 total for.
Okay.
What's your
Took
second?
me like a minute to explain this.
Second one, well, this is growth mindset standard, so it's not gonna be the same class.
Oh, I guess, I mean,
And then it's Sun Tzu.
It's gonna be so funny.
for like ninth grade.
Because they're all under time.
Yeah, mine
They were under
is
time.
like 5 seconds. But when practicing, I cannot
You're like, we didn't have a timer.
well, 'cause when practicing, I was like 11:30
Why do you do that?
Can't do anything with this time.
I know. It's just the time to like.
Go.
I put this freaking meeting to make sure like the here, if there are any big technology errors, you fix them, like.
I guess Amaya said that was supposed to be funky.
Yeah, which is weird, because I just started listening yesterday. It's just technology, literally, but they fixed it, so that's good. Megan was really bad about it, you could tell. Megan came out. I don't know what to do about it though. Okay, let's see.
I mean, I don't even know. I'd rather work at McDonald's.
Well, I saw it earlier because I didn't want to be late. I just wanted to took you long part today. Well, no, she like showed up here like, when I got back up, it's like 30. And she like went forward. No, I was like, how did it take you that long? No, all the way around was 30. Did you go right? I was talking about and then I went under. So it you're the wrong 20 seconds on. Well, you want to get 20 seconds. Oh, it's hard to keep talking. It's like
Especially next your mom.
I don't that's I tried to find it. I tried to show it as like an example because I was talking about sort of navigation, like what it was. Definitely on sometime in 2016. I just presented
I remember they started to talk about like maybe just like remember clear out your drive.
Oh,
Today when the moon came up early and it was like so bright, I just, it's like, I can't sleep when the moon's up, like, I just like, sure, I just keep rolling back and forth, looking outside, and the clock, yeah, I'm telling you, our range is all lit up because we got fields and everything. I was like looking outside, I'm like, wow.
Yeah, and you're saying you don't have enough to do? Are you
Well,
on a ranch?
we homeschool, so that's like our homeschool motif. Kids, chores, they don't know how to, skin them like meat.
Oh, yeah.
They don't know how to milk, chickens, eggs.
You don't need to flex.
And like, yeah, I don't know if I would like them, but I'm open to it, I guess. I don't know.
Open to anything.
Yeah.
Like even people who don't like eggs, it's a little easier to eat because it doesn't taste like eggs.
Oh, okay.
And just kind of
Yeah.
seeps in. Yeah.
I guess like, oh yeah, I like deviled eggs.
Oh, you do?
There it is. I got it. Good old fashioned.
I had my nails match my dress.
Perfect.
And my dress.
And your roses.
Yes, my dress.
Are you gonna show me or I'm hug myself, so you're not, don't worry about it.
If I look it doesn't matter if it's sweater.
Your dress is like, wow.
Like, my biggest thing is like, just even in the middle, if you like start feeling like, yes, some people do. Some people just forget to breathe, and I'm like, no, breathe. Take a breath.
When I had like my house, we have like a spray bottle for my cat.
Oh,
I asked them anytime, I asked John, I was like, can you please spray me? Whenever I said like her up first, so.
I've become more intentional in practice too.
Last year we had a senior, I don't know who it was now, but I remember sitting there like counting during the project, like, oh, this is not looking good, that's too many.
I feel
I mean, if he can't, he just yeah, he can't run and he can't swim. He just naturally swims. Yeah. He's like an otter. I feel like he gives off that sort
Pretty much. See how easy it is?
Yes.
They spend a lot of time on it.
That's not the same. Doesn't matter.
So like the whole semester.
Like, in like the span of
Find it out. I just wanted to work.
You want to gather artifacts all the time. You can tell it's very selective. It isn't like a big folder. It's just.
It'll be, yeah. And then, yeah.
What do you think?
Tanner.
it, bro. There's some pretty water.
Yes.
Not even ready.
Yeah.
They were asking me to join.
I saw their SATs.
I lived in both of
It's either 14 or 15 years.
Yeah. For him, it's literally just about like
We just watched the last time.
Yeah. Well, it's about doing the things that he can find.
Exactly.
Those are the things that he can.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
like, I just don't know how, and I'm like,
But you have all covered now, or is it just like keep it?
I have like,
At least for the
there's pictures. Yeah. Recordings too. When you're just looking at recordings and stuff, and like on the videos. Yeah.
Forget about the recordings. Like I really wanted to see Maya, and I had to teach ninth
You're amping yourself up, Tanner. Stop. You're amping yourself up. Take a breath.
I'm nervous too.
Yeah, I would say
I didn't know, I'm putting my name as like business grade. I didn't realize, I was like, do I put my whole name, does it matter?
I know. I would do that.
I want to be like, hello. Yeah. I want to make the show.
yeah, because then you feel like you're shielded. Hey, my wife doesn't know that. I'm telling you. Where did you go to?
And then about a minute and a half. Looks good. Yes, I'd love you. All right, guys, we're gonna start in about a minute, just so you know.
Don't look at it.
Spoiler the whole thing.
Much more time?
4 seconds.
Okay,
go ahead.
Alright, so hello everybody, this is my senior presentation. So right off the bat, I said that the high school journey can be compared to like the long whitewater rafting trip. So high school is more of like a test of endurance. It's more of like a marathon, a long trip sort of thing. It's not a sprint, it's not a race. So in high school there's times where you have rough water and there's times where you have kind of like calmer water. And rough water is like difficult times such as finals weeks or like difficult tests coming up. Same thing with calmer water. There's times where it's not stressful. You have like just you're taking notes or just easy stuff in general. And then I said that finishing the trip safely when you go rafting is kind of like graduating successfully. So here we go. First standard I'll be covering is growth mindset, and I'll be connecting it to the achievement ideal. So the extended metaphor for this section is breaking loose from traps on the river. So sometimes when you go rafting, you might get stuck on like a rock, or you might get stuck on like some sort of debris. You gotta get yourself out basically from those situations. And these two artifacts I'm about to show you, like initially I was stuck and had a hard time, but I was able to apply my growth mindset and then achieve great things after I did that. So here we go. Artifact 1 was my 11th grade weightlifting workout log. So basically, this class, half of it was doing the actual workouts and lifting, but the other significant half was creating basically a workout plan for each and every single day that you had in the class. You have to have, there's 4 assignments for this, 4 cycle sheets, and you have to submit it before the month that you do it. So I was specifically calculated, and there was like a secret formula to increasing your strength by the end of like 4 months. So you have to have your primary lifts, and then you have to focus your secondary lifts kind of like around those primary lifts to target like similar muscle groups. At first I struggled, I remember. The first cycle sheet I got a poor grade, and I remember Mr. Bruns commenting on my submission, and he's like, basically this sucks. Okay, and he was not wrong. It was pretty bad. But I applied my growth mindset, and I was able to get help from peers. I was able to ask teachers for help, and I was able to, in the end, achieve good things. So not only did I get good scores, but I also got new PRs in the gym. Like the formula that we used actually worked, something that I learned. For the second artifact, we have 12th grade Intro to Philosophy signature assignment. So this was an online class that I took. It was first semester. For the most part, the class was very easy. All you have to do was basically each week you have to read an article, and then you have to like submit a discussion board post, and then take a weekly quiz. So it was very simple, and that was like 90% of the course. But the final was unexpectedly difficult for me. Like I was procrastinating. Like I knew it was going to be easy, but then I actually checked it, and it was like really long. Here, one of the concepts was utilitarianism theory, and it's basically someone who is utilitarian would believe that the right thing to do in a situation is that which would produce the largest amount of happiness for the largest amount of individuals. So that was what the concept was. As you can see, you have to have quotes in there from class text, and then you also have to provide examples. So this really took a while. I had to lock in, as they say. I had to sit down for like 5 solid hours to get it done, because it was due like in 5 hours. And, overall, I achieved a 95 out of 100 positive comments from the instructor, which for doing this all in like 4 hours is pretty good, I would say. Yeah, so I was able to get myself off of that rock when I go rafting and keep going. So next standard is history, and I'll be connecting it to the growth idea. So for this extended metaphor, I'll have rowing efficiently in unison. You know, sometimes when you go rafting, you have people that are like slacking off, and other people that are like trying really hard. But when everyone's like in unison, everyone's on the same page, then your boat goes a lot faster and you get a lot more done. So, and these 2 assignments, especially the second one, you know, the presentation, it was a group presentation. Everyone was collaborating, and our success was dependent on how well everyone was able to like stay on the same page, stay on task, all those things. So artifact 1 was my 10th grade Sun Tzu Dave Ramsey presentation. So basically this unit we were studying Sun Tzu, who was a ancient Chinese military general, and he had a very famous work called The Art of War, and he uses military tactics to like deceive the minds of your opponents. But those tactics, we realized they can be applied to like pretty much anything. So we kind of connected it to Dave Ramsey, and as you can see, this is our thesis statement. In general terms, Dave Ramsey uses the principles of deception to manipulate people's ways of thinking plus handling money. So. Aside from that, you see the actual format of the slide, very unprofessional. Like a big, large chunk of text, like that's not how you present. This is very boring. If I'm listening to someone reading off of that, it's really boring. The audience is not going to be engaged, right? So yeah, I missed the point of presenting. I used to think like the more you have on your slide, the better it is for some reason. But yeah, obviously you can see there's a lot of room for growth here. Like on the next one I'm about to show you, it's a lot better. It's a lot more advanced. So yeah. Artifact 2, 11th grade Sioux Indian tribe presentation of Mr. Jacob. So basically we were assigned an Indian tribe to study, and with our group, and basically we had to connect it to a thesis statement. So from the economical, social, and political events happening to the Sioux tribe, which one of these factors didn't throw the lives of the North American Indians into disarray? So that's the question we were tackling. And aside from that, this is the slide that I did. And as you can see, off the bat, organization is a lot more visually appealing. You can see it's color coded, it's all chunked when I was presenting. It appeared one at a time, like it wasn't, it all popped up at the same time. In order to engage the audience, it popped up one at a time. So yeah, overall, you can see it's a lot more professional now. The group collaboration, just like in rafting, everyone was on the same page, everyone was contributing equally, and as a result, we had a really good final product. This is probably like one of my best, probably the best group presentation I've done in all of high school. So the third standard I'll be covering is apprenticeship, and I'll be connecting to the so what ideal. So the extended metaphor for this section is steering the raft and choosing paths. So in apprenticeship, you have a lot of freedom to choose whatever you want to do. Like you can explore whatever careers you want. Just like in rafting, like you come to a fork in the river, you can choose which way you want to go. So Artifact 1 was my 11th grade apprenticeship preparation document. So before we actually did the apprenticeship, we had to basically look up for potential apprenticeship contacts to do. And as you can see, you have to choose multiple careers and options. Like one thing I learned is that like you're not going to get your first priority sometimes, or even your second, or your third, or your fourth, or your fifth. I had to revert to my 6th pick, pretty much, because all the first 5 said no. So as you can see, this assignment right here, you have your occupation, and then you have your contact and their business name, and then you have your like phone number, like a way to contact them, basically. And connecting to the so what ideal, I learned about negotiation and planning ahead. So for negotiation, like you're gonna need to know how to negotiate in your professional life. Like if you want to get something from people, you're gonna learn how to communicate with them effectively. Same thing with planning ahead. You're gonna be prepared for anything, any sort of challenges. You gotta know what to do in those situations. So that's how it connects to more than just this assignment. So for Artifact 2, we have our 11th grade apprenticeship final reflection newsletter. So this was after we did the apprenticeship. As you can see, I reverted to like my 6th career option. I didn't actually want to do this, but it was still helpful to know a bit about this career. So as you can see, the career cluster was law enforcement. The business was Idaho State Police, ISP. And the supervisor was some Russian guy named Sergey. So this assignment was basically about big personal takeaways from the whole reflection. And one of the biggest personal takeaways that I had was right here. He told me that you do not necessarily need any sort of college degree to apply for ISP specifically, but it will certainly help you with your pay rate if you do have a degree. So this is just one of the many questions that I asked him to know about the career, pretty much, and it was very helpful for me. I learned a lot. So connecting back to the so what, I learned about the importance of reflecting and analyzing, like in your professional life. Whatever task you do, at the end of it, you're gonna have to learn how to reflect and analyze in order to be prepared for, like, the next time you do the same thing, you know how to improve. So that connects to more than just this assignment. So in conclusion, growth mindset, history, and apprenticeship provide a sense for like how my rafting trip went in general. So this is just like a small glimpse of how my high school career went. And as you can see, there was times where I had to row in unison with my group. There's times where I had to break loose from traps. I had to get like unstuck. And there's also times where I had to steer my own raft in the direction I chose, like an apprenticeship. Like the paths didn't work that I wanted to. Like let's say they were blocked like a log or something. There was like rocks in the way. I had to like maneuver myself into different directions, and eventually I found the one that worked out. So yeah, overall learning at Compass has been an incredible learning experience. Like there's been a lot of ups and downs, just like a long journey, like a marathon. But overall, I'm thankful to God for this opportunity. Like when I came here 6 years ago, I didn't really want to come here. My parents made me go. Like I was not excited at all. But looking back at the last 6 years, like I could see that it's actually been really good for me because like I had a lot of personal development, I had personal growth, stuff like that. It was really beneficial for me. So yeah, thank you guys for listening.
Thank you, Pablo. We may need a second to finish up notes and then some questions.
I'll go first. So what is it that you want to do?
So basically the plan right now is, I'm gonna try to get into like finance, because that's a very like broad degree. You can have a lot of jobs from that, maybe like financial analyzing, financial advising, consulting, maybe even investment banking, who knows. But yeah, but the second plan is like, I might get a CDL, just in case that doesn't work out. So, yeah.
Thanks, Pablo. My question is, what is one area that you think your character has struggled in high school, and how have you made it better? How have you grown in your character?
Initially, I'd say struggle-wise. I struggled a lot with like being confident about what I submit. Like I was always like self-conscious. Oh, is this good? Did I meet all the requirements? Then eventually I learned that like what I do, I gotta be confident in what I submit. Like even if I miss like one requirement or two, I can still get a good grade. So that's one thing that I learned.
Can we assume that you have whitewater rafted?
Yeah, I go like every year with the youth. Like July 4th, we go every year. It's like Payette River, so it's really fun.
Cool. I'm gonna ask you to extend your metaphor just a little bit further. Whitewater rafting in high school, how would you tie together the purpose of those two things? Like, why do we do it?
Well, the purpose of rafting, I'd say, is to like sometimes feel accomplished. Like when you arrive to the destination, it's really relieving, because like sometimes I went, there's people that fell off the boat, there's people that got injured. You know, sometimes people don't survive, but not us. Same thing with high school. Like.
That was perfect. Thank you.
Paul, if you could go back to freshman year, what piece of advice would you give yourself?
Myself, I'd say learn how to like advocate for yourself right away. Don't be scared to like talk to teachers. Like initially, I was scared of Mr. Jacob. Like I was so scared to talk to him. I was like trying to please him really well. But then I learned that like you gotta learn how to communicate with teachers, because that's gonna help you a lot.
Okay. Thanks so much, Pablo.
I had to go back to be my hall monitor.
Mr. Bennett, I had Luke be the hall monitor since Cameron was So, I'll be white. I'll be white. Yeah. Just like stare at them. You're saying Bless you.
She also split
It was hilarious, just a lot. I had so much fun.
Okay.
Taylor, you can press out the clicker and yeah, just cut comfortable with it before we begin. Make sure the door please and switch.
I was gonna say I have quite a few transitions, so I don't want to go through the entire thing. But
10 minutes later.
yeah, I'm like, oh, that was my whole presentation, guys.
It'll be fine, bye.
Yeah.
Okay, you've got like 20 seconds.
Okay.
Okay, Taylor, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Taylor Hugg, and this is my senior project presentation and exploration on how to grow well. So, to begin in my table of contents, I will be going over the standards of math, elective, and apprenticeship. For math, it will be representing the ideal of growth, elective will be representing the ideal of mastery, and apprenticeship will be representing the ideal of achievement. For my extended metaphor, I'm using the metaphor of taking care of a plant and how a plant grows well, and I'm relating that to how I've learned to take care of myself well throughout high school and how I've learned to grow well. So for math, under the ideal of growth, it will be representing taking care of the roots. Elective, under the ideal of mastery, will represent breaking the ground. And apprenticeship, under the ideal of achievement, will represent learning where to grow. Math, for the ideal of growth. My first artifact is my first pre-calculus test that I took my junior year. Pre-calculus was where I first started to really struggle in math, and I definitely showed this on my first test. We see for under reporting standard 1, solve radical equations. Right under that, I got a 0 on the standard, which is significantly below my expectations for myself. Specifically, being somebody who has always been fairly good at math, this very much caught me off guard, specifically because I had written down how to solve the problem before I started doing it. I had the knowledge of it, isolate the radical, square both sides, and solve. Yet I got a 0 for this standard because I was missing the significance of the problem, which we see in the image on the right, the fact that it becomes quadratic. This is where I needed to learn to slow down to actually understand the significance of the work, especially being in upper level math classes. It wasn't just about being the smartest in the class or who could finish the test first. It was about understanding what the problem was saying. For my second artifact, I have my pre-calculus notes, and while this is a very simple artifact, it definitely benefited me further into the school year. So these notes are from my second semester. Simply having the lesson planned out, having the subject, having the homework very organized was very beneficial when I would go back to study. I could use these problems very easily. Additionally, this is one of the problems that I did. We can see that it is very spaced out. I took up a lot of room to do this problem, and that helped me to slow down and process through the work that I was doing, and additionally helped Miss Craig help me if there was some significance that I was missing on my homework before it impacted my grades, such as it did in the first artifact. So for my reflection, taking care of the roots, I learned the ability to slow down, take a step back, and look in the mirror. Additionally, I learned not only the what of information, but the how of application. And lastly, I learned that clear and organized work is one of the ways that I learn best. For my second standard, I have elective, representing the ideal of mastery. For my first artifact, I have my Psychology 101 signature assignment. This assignment I did during the summer of 2022, so right after my sophomore year, I took it with Mrs. Nagy online. Throughout the semester, we had learned psychological terms, and our final assignment was to put these psychological terms into a piece of media that we really enjoyed. So for this, I chose the Hunger Games. One of the terms that I really connected a lot with was cognitive dissonance, and I thought this one was particularly interesting to me. Cognitive dissonance means psychological discomfort that arises from a conflict in a person's behaviors, attitudes, or beliefs that runs counter to one's own positive self-perception. perception. Additionally, for this assignment, we did a deep dive analysis into how it connected to the movie or TV show. So for this, I wrote, in the Hunger Games, the tributes are often made to become murderers. They don't have a say in the matter, and they are forced to leave their values behind as they become vicious entertainment for the capital. The games often change their perceptions of themselves, and the tributes think of themselves in a negative light for performing these horrific actions. It doesn't matter if it was their choice or not. Specifically, I found this term so interesting because of the aspect of choice and control, specifically being somebody who's always struggled with anxiety, and being able to connect that term of cognitive dissonance into my own life. I found that to be really interesting. For my second artifact, I have my Philosophy 111 final essay. Philosophy 111 is a world religions class. Additionally, I took this one over the summer after my junior year. So for this class, I took it with Ms. Watson online through CWI, and throughout the course, we had learned multiple different religions and how they shape culture. And for our final essay, the essay prompt was to argue if there was one true religion. Not an easy task. So I did this by going over the 3 Abrahamic religions, which are Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. In each of these, I said that said religion teaches that. I found this to be a very good method to use, as it didn't attach any moral standards or judgments to the religion, specifically being a religious individual myself, and it helped to keep it very academic. I additionally used evidence per religion covered, and this really helped me to maintain my thesis and my counterclaim and keep it unemotional and simply academic. It helped me to approach the topic, specifically being somebody who doesn't like to approach these topics in an argumentative manner. So for my reflection, breaking the ground, I learned the analytical analysis of important subjects such as psychology and philosophy. Additionally, the ability to pursue what I'm passionate about. I love psychology and I love philosophy, and I've always been drawn to those existential topics, and it was very cathartic and awesome for me to be able to understand the what and be able to provide evidence and knowledge towards myself when I was discussing these topics. And lastly, I learned the ability to teach others through my knowledge, such as in the PowerPoint presentation in the first artifact and the essay in the second artifact. For my last standard of apprenticeship, representing the ideal of achievement. For my first artifact, I have an informational interview. The purpose of this assignment was to go out and find people who had our chosen occupation or career, or what we thought would be our chosen occupation or career. So I contacted an art therapist, and her name was Katie Bender. We learned all of the nitty-gritty details of the jobs, such as median wage, projected growth, jobs openings, skills, and tasks. This was very interesting hearing it from somebody in the field and not just Googling it. It was very more personal, and they were able to share a lot more about their experience in these aspects. Additionally, under the information summary, one of the key things that I took away from it was, in being an art therapist, you have to understand yourself, your trauma and biases to do your job effectively. Not simply about showing up for the client or patient, but understanding your role in that was very significant to me. Additionally, in my is it a match factor, I wrote, knowing my values from the disc reflection. The disc reflection was a motivation test and tool that we had taken to figure out where we would thrive. And the main factors that I got from that were support and influence. Those are major factors that are important in how I will interact in the workplace. And additionally, I do love connecting with people and hearing their stories, so that would be perfect for this job. For my second artifact, I have my apprenticeship final reflection newsletter. I chose to do my apprenticeship with Mrs. Plum and spend my 40 hours under her and learning from her. She was our school's old athletic director, and while I have never been passionate about becoming an athletic director, she was a very important role model to me my freshman and sophomore year. And she was just always so on it and always so passionate about what she was doing, and she was so effective in her job and in her work that I wanted to learn from her those skills.
So under my standard 1, develop career awareness, I said that I met this standard because while it was simple, I realized that the work that I do has to be important to me. I have to find purpose and value in it to be successful. Additionally, I need a calm environment to work in, nothing too chaotic or crazy, and I need to have independence in my job. Additionally, in the question, how did this apprenticeship help your career decision, I focused this more into how I wanted to be a counselor or a therapist, and learned more from my informational interview and tied those two together. So I learned that I would like to have my own private practice through a company that would still provide me structure, but I could set my own hours. And additionally, I found that it was very important for me to have a physical place to go to work and have a physical place to come home and have that boundary between those two. For my reflection, learning where to grow. Not only who I want to be, but how I want to be. Additionally, what work I find value and purpose in and how I can attain that. Additionally, how I can be successful in diverse circumstances. So my so what, why does this all matter? Learning how to take care of roots will help me when I face adversity and need to take a step back. The ability to break the ground will help me thrive in future occupations when I need to learn something new, and it'll help me to stay curious and passionate and have that grit. Lastly, knowledge of learning where to grow will help me make future decisions, such as decisions about my career, worldview, family, and self-exploration. Thank you for listening.
Thanks so much, Taylor. We might take a sec to write some notes and then we'll ask you a question.
Some people say that a significant number of religious people don't believe in such thing as a subconscious, and they think it's rather a working out of their virtues or morality. How would you respond to that?
It's a very good question.
I could make it easier, just to help.
Well, I believe that
Okay.
everybody has their own worldview, and that we all have these aspects of like an internal and an external locus and how we see the world. I think there are subconscious levels even in just us all being humans, and there's qualities that we all share even though we're all very diverse and different. So I would argue that we do have a subconscious, specifically looking at terms such as cognitive dissonance and this aspect of how we fight with ourselves and like these internal battles that we have in our own head and things that we struggle with.
That's excellent, thank you.
All right, Taylor, what is something you have learned from observing either teachers or peers or being involved with like having a relationship with your teachers and your peers throughout high school? So what have you learned through others in high school?
Something that has always been a big struggle for me throughout high school has been perfectionism. And through teachers and my peers, I've learned that perfectionism often stunts progress. And seeing that in teachers' lives and their lesson planning and learning from them when they mess up, even if it's a simple mistake, learning that like that crippling perfectionism of like, oh, I just messed up. You guys don't do that. You guys don't have to like take a second and like freak out. You just move on because that's how progress is made and that's how you teach students. And that's how the lesson comes across. And also just being in such an academic school, I've seen so many smart students get poor grades, and I've seen so many students who get poor grades be insanely smart. And I think perfectionism has a big role to play in that.
touched on it in your presentation, but can you think of a specific time where you had a fixed mindset and where you were able to change it into a growth mindset?
Probably in dealing with perfectionism, I had a fixed mindset. While it isn't something like a specific moment in time, it was definitely a big struggle for me throughout my freshman and sophomore year. I remember in my environmental science class, it was online, and I just struggled so much in that class. And I did have a fixed mindset, and I didn't find any purpose in the class. I didn't think the information was as interesting. The way that it was being taught online, I didn't feel like I was actually getting anything from it. And I just had to learn the information just to learn it. And in having that fixed mindset, I think that's why I had such a negative attitude towards the class. And I think that's why that's been the class that I've struggled in the most throughout high school.
Okay, good job, Taylor. Thanks so much. Okay, pull up the next slide. You can test the clicker. We're going to start in about a minute and a half.
Do you want my stopwatch?
Did you test the clicker?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Just to be sure, you're going to start in a little bit.
Am I good to start now?
I will tell you when.
Hello everyone, thank you for coming. My name is Cole Sweeney, and here's my senior presentation. And I have 3 standards I'll be connecting to. My first is math, with the ideal of mastery. My second standard is history, with the ideal of achievement. And my third standard is my elective, which is psychology, and the ideal of growth. And for my metaphor outline, I'm doing a toaster, and how the different components of a toaster are like these standards. And the first metaphor connection I have is the handle of the toaster you push down. The second metaphor connection is the heating dial of a toaster. And the third metaphor connection is the bagel setting. And for my first standard, it's math with ideal of mastery. And my first artifact is my 11th grade college prep math class. And it's my Unit 3 test prep. It was a unit about converting fractions to decimals and fractions to percentages and that kind of thing. And like solving for x in an unknown variable equation. I got a 68% on my test prep, which isn't too good. It's very basic and like not a very good level of understanding in the course. And I focused on improving and getting a better score through different studying habits, and I learned some new studying habits that were really good for me. And I studied hard to persevere and be able to get like that grade up. And I studied until I was like confident and comfortable in my answers. And I prepared myself for the test and was able to get that 4 level of understanding before I started the test. For my second artifact, it's my Unit 4 test prep from the same class in 11th grade. This unit was about graphing and like finding x in different equations. finding like the length or angle of a shape from an unknown variable. And I got 100% on my third try because I used like the previous methods of studying, like learning different things, which helped me a lot in this unit. I got like consistent work and studying, which led to the 100%. I learned what worked best for me and used that to my advantage to try and get the best grade I could as soon as possible. And I didn't stop after this test prep either. I did a few more just to like ensure that I understood everything about the unit. And I learned studying habits that worked for me. I had a lot of trial and error in this class, and learning like how I study best helped me a lot to not only pass this test, but all the others I had taken after that too. And for the ideal of mastery, I had a bunch of consistent and hard work that led me to getting the 100%. I spent a lot of time working on not only like understanding the course, but like becoming confident in my answers and knowing which formula goes to what and being like comfortable with the problems they were giving me. And by studying repeatedly, I was able to master the units in math. And with these studying methods, I set myself up for success. I used this in like not only math, but history, English, science, and a bunch of other classes. And that helped me like become more confident in test taking and studying for different classes because I knew it was coming. And for the metaphor, I used the toaster handle. And I was saying that like studying for math quizzes and tests are a lot like the handle. You have to like study hard, keep on studying, and stick to it. It's like get the handle to stay down. And if you push down too lightly, the toast won't become toast. It'll just stay bread, and it won't do anything. It'll be useless. Like if you don't study enough, you won't be able to know the answers to anything, and you won't retain any information. But if you study too hard, you might like break the handle and break your way of studying, and just like burn the toast and burn out. And that could like cause even more damage than not studying, because if you study too much, you won't like want to study anymore, thinking that you know everything about it, and then it'll cause you to like not remember anything and not retain any of the information you need. For my second standard, I use history for the ideal of achievement. And for my first artifact, it's my 10th grade world history European countries quiz. This is where we like had a bunch of different European countries on a website we used, and we had to name all the countries and where they are. It was from around after World War I, so it was a different time period, and something I wasn't very familiar with because I don't really know many European countries. I didn't know many before this quiz, but I was able to learn a lot more about it through studying over and over again. And I got a 48 out of 50, which is really good for me, especially not knowing like anything about European countries before this. I memorized everything and I repeated it until like I knew for sure that I could pass the test easily. And the new studying resource, like the geography quiz, I wasn't very comfortable with it at first, but I made sure that I could be able to use these new studying styles, like in math, until I was comfortable with it and confident in everything I knew. And for my second artifact, it's my 12th grade government written portion of one of my government tests I had. And this one was about the Constitution and Declaration of Independence and like how different parts of government have affected us in history. And this one was a lot different than the geography quiz because I had to form my own thoughts and opinions, and I couldn't just like copy and paste answers, basically. I had to get to a 4 level of understanding before I could do anything else. And I got a 4 on the test, that part of the test that is, and in-depth studying was required. I couldn't just like look at a map this time. I had to do my own research and become confident in my answers. And my knowledge of the unit needed to be vast. I had to do a lot of my own research, which led to more understanding of the unit. I was more comfortable in my test-taking abilities at this time because I knew that what I had researched and learned was good enough for the test. And for the ideal for this one, it was achievement. And I maintained a 4-level grade throughout like both these years. The first 10th grade quiz was pretty easy because I just had to memorize a bunch of different countries, but the government test, I had to like become my own teacher basically and form my own thoughts and opinions. And harder work meant more studying, which led to a lot of more studying and learning things myself. I couldn't just go to a website for help. I had to actually research everything. And repetition led to memorization of the information. I was able to retain all the information much longer than I usually was able to because I was able to memorize and repeat the different lessons over and over again until I was comfortable. And for the metaphor, I used the heating dial of a toaster. And understanding the course material is required to achieve good grades. And it's much like finding your perfect setting on a toaster. If you don't toast it enough, it'll just basically be bread with the outer layer of toast, which is like you're learning. You only scratch the surface, but you don't go deep enough to get everything covered. And if you go too far, the toast will burn, and like your own studying habits, you may burn out and not want to study anymore, or you may just learn too much that you don't know what to put on the test, and you'll be over-prepared, won't know anything to do. And for my third standard of psychology, which is my elective, I use the ideal of growth. And my first artifact is my 11th grade Psych 101 class midterm assessment. This was in the halfway point of our unit. We had to psychologically analyze a TV show or movie of our choosing. And I chose Star Wars: Revenge of the Sith. And right here you can see a little definition of feeling-focused coping I have. I said that feeling-focused coping is solving problems with your feelings and letting your feelings take control to make decisions. It was really basic and basically just a copy and paste definition. I just paraphrased it. And it was short, concise, and a sensible level of knowledge, which means that I was just scratching the surface. I wasn't going deeper and learning things that actually were useful. I was just basically going on the first page of Google and copying what they gave me. And I focused more on the movie than the actual material, which wasn't good because it didn't follow the rubric and wasn't a good, intelligible level of understanding. And for the second artifact, it's my signature assignment of the same class. It was the same thing for the midterm assignment, just a bit longer and a bit more affecting our grade because it was the final in the class. And in this part, you can see that I integrated quotes and actually linked it to the characters and themes of the movie. It was long and thought out and more advanced, and I integrated the quotes into the text, which meant I was able to learn more about the movie because I was analyzing the characters, the themes, and the decisions they made and how those actions were linked to different definitions I learned. I also had an intelligible level of understanding, which meant I had a 4 level of understanding, or a 3 or 4, not just a 1 or 2. And for the ideal of growth, more learning meant more knowledge was gained, and this was helpful because I used psychology in English and history, and I was able to relate that to different things in my life. And I grew not only in psychology, but different classes as well. And better grades and deeper understanding meant that I was able to confidently answer in multiple different areas of my life and classes. And for my metaphor, it's the bagel setting of a toaster. And growth means learning from your mistakes and improving upon them. I learned from my mistake in psychology of not going deep enough and learning enough about the course material to actually do anything about it. And different approaches must be taken to excel in different areas. You can't go into math with only knowing science or English. It won't work that way. And bagels need a different heat setting, just like classes require different mindsets. And for my conclusion, I learned many different things over my high school career. Studying habits, growth mindset, and achieving new goals have all helped me to get to where I am now. I grew to an intelligible level of understanding, giving me more opportunities to achieve higher grades and retaining information and understanding different courses. And the skills I learned now will help me in college and in my future careers to come. Thank you.
to take a second to firm up our thoughts.
Okay. Thanks for presenting. So Cole, my question for you would be, what is one way that you feel like you positively contribute to either those around you or the world in general?
I offer help when it's needed, and I try and like set an example for others sometimes. Like for others that are more like struggling for a certain subject, I try and like show the example of what they could do for them.
What's one of your favorite books you read in school?
I really liked Failing Forward in Mr. Jacobs' freshman navigation class. I learned a lot from it because like I was afraid of failure before, and I learned that like accepting failure and like being able to learn from it was really helpful, and it like helped me step out of my comfort zone and be more confident in different things.
So when you think about the Senate and the Empire and Star Wars, to what extent do you think that's a valid metaphor for politics today in America?
I guess like the Jedi and the Sith, like their like struggle between each other is like the different political parties today, and like that kind of thing about the government and like how they're always fighting each other, like opposing sides.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Do you want to use the clicker?
Okay, I'm expressing.
Oh, sorry.
If you're done with your surgery, you can go where you were supposed to be and leave if you're not supposed to leave. Yes, that's perfect, that's perfect. All right, you've got about 1 minute. Have you tested the clicker? Here we go.
Hello, my name is Jack Sweeney. This is my senior presentation. First off, we have the outline. I will be going over the standards of math, history, and community service. And my metaphor is making a steak. I will be going over the different aspects of butchering the cow, packaging the food, and finally cooking the steak. For my first standard, I have math and the ideal of growth. For my first artifact, I have 9th grade overall math grade. As you can see, it's a C. It wasn't my best ability or my best skills I used, and I really struggled in this class. We were learning just basics of math for high school, of graphing, finding variables and different equations. And some aspects that led to this was, it was a new school for me. It was starting high school, so it was a lot different than middle school and different from any school I'd been in. It was an honors class, which I had never taken any honors classes before. And then on top of that, it was a charter, which I'd never been to a charter school before. And then we were in the middle of a pandemic, so everything was just crazy and nothing was under control. And for my second artifact, I have my first math test of 11th grade. It's pretty similar to 9th grade, just higher standards and tougher problems. And then for my second thing is the overall math grade for 11th grade. These two were very high and showed my growth as to how far I came from 9th grade to 11th grade. This was because of more experience at Compass. I was adjusted to the workflow, how the teachers laid out assignments and were teaching us. It was a self-paced class also, so I was by myself and I had to hold myself accountable, and I had to learn how I could study and keep myself accountable. I also stayed on track this year, and I tried to stay on track more than I had in 9th grade, so I could learn better and turn in assignments on time. Then the ideal I connected this to was growth. This is because my skill of math greatly improved from 9th grade to 11th grade. And then my studying habits also improved, as you can see, from going from a C to an A. And then this was also a big jump in an academic challenge, from going from a regular middle school to an honors high school. And then I also adjusted the workflow. I learned how teachers put out work and how different assignments were going to be. And my connection to the metaphor was butchering the cow, because like butchering a cow, it's very hard to adjust to, and the first time you butcher it, it'll be very hard. And similar to Compass, it's very hard to adjust to, especially when you're joining in high school and you have no experience of the school before that, and you haven't gone to it before. And for my second standard, I have history, with the ideal of achievement. And for my first artifact, I have the 10th grade Asian geography quiz. And here it is, I have a 19 out of 46 on it, and it's not a good grade at all. This was from a few aspects of being absent the day we studied for the quiz. It was introduced, and then being absent the day we took the quiz. It was over different Asian countries, history, and their culture. And I didn't know much about it beforehand, so I kind of went into the test blind when I did take it. I did not study enough outside of school, so I was setting myself up for failure. And then I was very unprepared, leading to the low score. And then I was setting myself up for failure by not studying enough and not asking for questions, or maybe an extension if he would let me. And for my second standard, we had the 11th grade Cherokee Tribe teaching. This was in Mr. Jacobs' class, and it wasn't just a presentation, it was a teaching, because we taught the class, we asked some questions, and it was very in-depth, and they worked on it also with us. And for the artifact I chose, it was the editing history. It was me, Garrett, and Will in first semester when it was introduced. But then after first semester, Will left the school, and it was just me and Garrett working on it. So we had some uncontrollable circumstances that we had to adapt to, and this made the assignment harder than it should have been. There's also a new style assignment that we were not familiar with, so it was very hard to adjust to and to start at the beginning. And then on top of that, we had the extra work for taking over Will's part of the assignment, so it was very hard to do, but we did ask questions, and we tried to stay after school sometimes to get Mr. Jacob to help us work on it. And then in the end, we did receive a 3.5, which is a very good score for having only 2 people on a assignment that usually had 3 or 4. And then the ideal I connected to was achievement. And it was because we overcame obstacles that we could not control while leaving the school. And then we finished the assignment successfully. And I feel that it was a very high achievement as we didn't have enough people in our group, but we still overcame and we adapted and persevered. And then my connection to metaphor was packaging food, because the teacher's job is to package us and set us up for success, similar to packaging steaks so they don't go bad. And if the food did go bad, it would not be good to eat. And similar to if we were not set up for success by our teachers, we would not do good on the next assignments and quizzes we were handed. And then this leads me to the quote: "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." Because if we don't remember the past, remembering how the teacher set us up for success, we are pretty much setting ourselves up for failure. And then my third standard is community service, and I have the ideal of so what. For my first artifact, I had my 9th grade service log, and we have the 20 hours that I did. We did 20 hours each semester for 4 semesters through 2 years, totaling 80 hours of community service. And the project I did was ironing and sewing blankets for the NICU section at the hospital. And the NICU is the neonatal intensive care unit, where premature babies are sent to heal and get ready. And then sick babies are also sent there so they can heal. And I did this because I had a personal connection because I was born early. So I was sent to the NICU, and I spent a few months in there. So it was a very personal connection because I got to help out and give back to where I started from. And for my second artifact, I have my 10th grade service log. And in this box, I have spring cleaning with campus, where we went out and cleaned the front parking lot. We picked up trash, pulled weeds, and tidied up everything. And then for my second thing, I had church cleaning. I went to my friend's church, and they were doing a spring cleaning event. And we pulled weeds, picked up trash, we laid out rock in the garden beds, and then just cleaned up everything. And then my third one was the fish rodeo volunteering, where it was an event where you got to fish for free, and they provided the rods for you. So I was in a trailer handing out rods to people and untangling all the lines and helping out people put on bait and just helping out with whatever else they needed. And I got my 20 hours in total. And from this, I learned how to help the school, helping the community, cleaning up the environment. And then I learned how volunteer work kind of happened. And I learned how it helps you develop as a person because of the standards you were set up for. And then my ideal was so what? And it was because we were helping the community. It's very helpful. It helps you grow as a person, and you can use it in real life later on in life. And then it gave you real world experiences as we got to help clean the environment and help out our school and different places we go to. And then another valuable lesson we got from this was receiving nothing in return, because we were not allowed to receive money for helping out or anything. And I think this is a valuable lesson because a lot of people are selfish or greedy today. And maybe taking a step back and learning that you could just do something out of the goodness of your heart. It's a very valuable lesson and should be taught more often. And then I also think that community service is not very popular for schools to do because they see it not as helpful for people. But I think it is very helpful and very valuable. I think more schools should introduce it into their curriculum. And then my connection to the metaphor was finally cooking the steak, because how long you put the steak in is how well cooked it is and how well it is to your liking. So if you don't cook the steak, you might not like it as much. And similar to assignments, if you don't do the studying as much, you can't do well on the assignments and the quizzes that come up. So then, for my conclusion, we have growth from 9th to 12th grade with the different assignments I have had. And then achievement with me graduating, my work quality improving, and my study habits improving. And then my so what, which is my real world situations and how they have impacted me as a person and helped me grow and learn. And then how will this be applicable to my future? And this will show that my work ethic will help me in not only my jobs, my career, and my in college, because it shows that I can do my work and study, learn in college and my career, as Compass has helped me set up for my college, and my career, because it is very helpful and it is academically challenging, which helps you out in the future. Thank you for listening.
All right, thank you, Cole. While the judges are finishing notes, if they need to, I have 2 questions for you, actually. Can you be a bit more specific about a personal lesson you learned in terms of volunteering, like something you did and something you personally gained, a lesson you learned there?
Yes. In the other semester, so it wasn't on there, I helped an elderly woman in my community paint her deck.
Mhm.
And she couldn't do it because she couldn't bend down and like do all the work for her. So me and a couple friends offered to do it for her, and it counted as some of our hours. So I think that was like a very humbling experience, because you see like how if you don't have many people in your community, you might not be able to do the things, and with help, you can, like, just helping out people is also very helpful and valuable.
Okay, helping is important, community is important.
Yeah.
Okay. And then my second question is, you have been preparing senior project for quite a while, and there's a lot of steps to it. What is something through all of this reflection or the work in the essay or any part of the senior project, what's something that you have learned about yourself?
I'd say like procrastination. It's very bad to do, and not helpful at all, because for some of the stuff I did procrastinate, and it ended up in like not failure, but not the best work I could have done. So if I had taken time, like set away time, I feel I would have done a lot better.
You were talking about, with your community service, like how important you think it is. So I was just curious, like, how did that just change the way that you're gonna approach like your adulthood?
Well, like just receiving nothing in return. So like sometimes you have to do stuff you don't want to do, and then other times there are stuff you want to do. But in both senses, you might not receive anything, even though you might receive a lesson, but you won't receive like something physical for it. So I feel that's like really important for it.
So sorry, I just want to elaborate. Like, how do you think it's going to connect to your job one day?
I'm not too sure. But
What do you want to do? What's your future?
Well, I'm taking forensics right now, and I'm pretty interested in becoming a crime scene investigator.
If you were to give advice to an upcoming student, here's a class, like let's say as a 9th grader, which is a class you'd say, make sure you take that class. That's really, obviously you have to take a bunch of them, but which one would you say, really learn on that one?
I'd probably say apprenticeship, because it kind of sets you up for the future, lets you learn in the real world. And it's like taking school, not just in the building, but outside of the building. So it's like taking that next level and exploring outside of school.
Okay,
Thanks.
Thank you so much. You can do 5.
Oh,
yeah.
what?
You do 0.25.
Yeah, sorry, Kennedy was here when she asked about that, and I
It's a
progressed
I
on
do.
you.
Yeah, because you take an average of everybody's in there,
Exactly,
right?
yeah. So, okay, I'll pull yours up. All right, guys, we're gonna have a slight adjustment to the schedule, so you guys are more, if you're a senior observing, you're actually more than welcome to head out for the day, okay? Unless you're one of the last 2 presenters of today. So, have a lovely day, and, take a breather, congratulate yourself, and then, maybe do other work. School's still happening.
Stevens, can I have those 2 stay?
much?
If
Can you make
want,
them?
Yes. Yeah, they technically.
You
do
could
need to,
bribe
yeah.
them. I mean.
You have to stay.
Are you
you know,
paying them?
what's it
No, I
worth
need
to
this.
you? You
I don't
know?
need this. I just need these.
Who's the other judge that's coming?
Mrs. Higgins said she would be here.
For this one too?
Yeah, she
Okay,
said she would.
I just know I can't be here for the next two because they're gonna have to next class. We need the other judge.
No, Mrs. Scarborough's here. Can she step in?
Yeah, if they.
You want to, did you say you're stepping out?
I do need to just because my class is
I'll
gonna
do the
start.
timer.
Thank you. Next portion.
This is Brian's, all right.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so Tanya, your judges are going to be Mrs. Norlott, Mr. Nelson, and then probably, who did she say that?
Mrs. Scarborough is here. She can.
I believe it was supposed to be Kelly though.
Yeah, I don't know
It
where
was
she's
supposed to be
going.
here.
She might have to.
It's okay, maybe she probably has a class coming up too, so we'll have one of them just to do it. Okay, going past the clicker, does that work for you? Okay, perfect, that's awesome.
Yes, it's the work.
Okay, awesome, we're gonna wait just a few seconds.
Waiting for seconds.
I think she said
Just 1 minute. Okay.
Yeah.
See.
Pretty rigid schedule.
Sorry, I feel like this clicker's gonna stop working when I start.
it's worked
Word.
100% all day,
Okay,
so the
cool.
clicker will be great for you.
You ready? Miss Stevens is, you're heading out, so we'll just wait a second till she steps out.
Good luck later.
Thank you.
All right, feel free.
Hi, my name is Tanner Graham, and this is my senior project. My first standard is apprenticeship, and the ideal for the standard is so what? For my apprenticeship, I was able to work with dogs, which are my favorite animals on the face of this planet. The place I worked was called Camp Bow Wow, and my first artifact is a picture of one of the play yards for the dogs. At my work, my job when I am in the play yard is to watch the dogs and keep them entertained. My job, and wait, I also make sure that the dogs don't get into any fights, and if they do, my job is to break up those fights. One of the things that I have learned when working with larger groups of dogs is that sometimes that they play together, but sometimes they don't always get along. My second artifact is my supervisor evaluation for my apprenticeship. The part of the supervisor evaluation that I want to focus on is the career development standard. And focusing on the mastered column, I am showing that I achieved mastery in all categories. One of the things that I had to do to achieve mastery was show responsibility. I showed responsibility by always showing up to work on time. I also needed to have a positive attitude. I demonstrated this by saying yes to every job that I had to do, that I was asked to do, even if it was the most disgusting, wretched, stinky job that made me gag to do them. Lastly, I demonstrated communication skills by asking my supervisor what needed to be done whenever I did not know or I was stuck. And I also communicated effectively with pup parents and coworkers about the needs and activities of the dogs. I previously did not think that I could handle any type of added stress to my life. My apprenticeship taught me that I can handle any stressful situation if I have the right mindset. I now can handle the stress of a dog fight without having a panic attack. My apprenticeship was a doggone good time. second standard is technology, and the ideal I chose to focus on was mastery. My first artifact is the Giver presentation that we did in my junior year of high school. We had been assigned to create a teaching lesson to practice being able to teach rather than to present the information to the class. The slides needed to be created and animated in a specific way to help the reader understand my information in the best way possible. This is an example of some of the animations that we had to add to our slides in order to teach the class effectively. We made sure to show the information piece by piece. So we show one piece, then we tell them about it and talk to them, ask questions. Then we show a second piece, talk to them about that, and then show the third piece, so that it didn't overflow their brain and they made sure that they understood all the information. My second artifact was my 2022 to 2023 assignment tracker. This was one of the most beneficial and helpful resources that I had to track and complete my assignments on time. This helped me to track all of my assignments all in one place and keeping track of the due dates and status of each assignment. I will quickly go over each column to show what the assignment tracker consists of. So there is a subject column where I could say which class the assignment was for. There's the assignment section column where I would just write the title of the assignment. There is the start date where I would write when I started the assignment and the date that it was due. And then one of the most important categories was the status category, where I could select the status of the assignment to see like where I was at, how close I was to completing the assignment. The technology piece of my assignment seemed to be a big hassle, especially my assignment tracker, but however, once I got used to using it on a daily basis, it became a much easier and more helpful tool to keep track of my assignments. And technology is a high schooler's best friend.
Oh, cool, thank you.
My third standard is my research paper, and the ideal I chose was achievement. My first and only artifact for this is my senior research paper, one of my favorite paragraphs from the senior research paper. My research paper was on chronic wasting disease and the impacts it could have on the human and cervid populations, which consist of any antlered species like deer, elk, caribou, and moose. I was interested in this topic because I love to hunt and I love the outdoors. This is one of the longest papers I've ever written, and it was a huge achievement for me. I was able to achieve writing the longest paper I've ever written because I broke it down into more manageable chunks and wrote it piece by piece rather than just looking at the whole daunting assignment. I was able to do it one piece at a time, which brought my stress levels down and allowed me to complete the assignment to the best of my ability. The research paper seemed very overwhelming at first because I was looking at the whole thing. But in my previous English classes, the longest paper I've ever written was less than a page. And writing has always been a struggle for me because I get overwhelmed by the size and knowing how to organize my thoughts and information. However, I created an outline, found my evidence, and wrote my paper all in different sections on different days, which made the assignment more doable. This allowed me to write more than I have ever written, and which is a huge achievement for me, and it turns out you can teach a high schooler new tricks. Some lessons that I learned from high school is that having a growth mindset applies to everything that I do. Also, I learned that technology can help make life and tasks a lot easier and more doable. And and you can get things accomplished when you break them into smaller and more manageable pieces. And I can use these lessons to help me with my future by helping me accomplish my goals much easier and more efficiently. High school was a great experience and taught me that I can accomplish anything if I have the right tools and mindset. Do you have any questions?
Give us just a minute to make a few notes while
Well, we
we
have
freshen our
questions.
mind. Yeah, we'll do questions. And
Oh.
we always take just a minute.
Oh,
Yeah.
when I was in here earlier, we did questions right away.
Yeah. We're in a rhythm now, you know. Go ahead if you want.
Okay, Tanner, I know that you love your job at Camp Bow Wow, you love the dogs, you know every single dog by name. And I also know that you've had a couple of really cool accomplishments recently in your job. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I got Counselor of the Month, which is basically Employee of the Month at my work, but we're called camp counselors at my job. But I got Counselor of the Month twice, and one was recently on May 21st, and also on May 21st, I officially made it to 2 years working at my job, which is a big accomplishment for me, as it's my first job, so sticking there that long was pretty amazing. So, still is, because I'm still there. So.
So proud.
Do you have dogs? And what kind, and how many do you want to have in your future when you're living on your own? I gotta know these things.
1 second, I don't actually know off the top of my head. One, Maya, Callie, Millie, Oscar, Lucy. I have more. I'm pretty sure I have 7.
7 dogs at your house?
Yeah.
You
Well,
have
at
the
2
nice-
houses. At 2
Oh, you have
houses.
between 2 houses?
2 houses, I have 7
Okay,
dogs.
amazing parents,
Yes,
good job, parents.
I have 3 wiener dogs, a border collie Aussie mix, German short hair, and like 3 that we have no idea what they are. They're like a mutt. So.
So are you gonna be the person with the house with all the dogs after you like get your own place someday?
I'm gonna be the exact opposite of Crazy Cat Lady. I'm gonna be a crazy dog guy.
There you go. There you go.
That's love it.
That's super fun.
So you did a bunch of research on chronic wasting disease. What do you think is, I mean, obviously that has all kinds of problems. What do you think is one of the worst problems due to that?
Well, we've had, one of the things that I researched is that it could, we don't know, but it could spread to humans.
Oh my.
Which, because we know of a very, very similar disease called mad cow disease.
Yes.
That is, they're all prion diseases, they're the exact same family, but mad cow disease can spread to humans.
Okay.
And it's like the same thing, we just picked a different animal.
Mm.
So we're very worried that you can get it, and
Okay. Wow.
just stuff can happen mentally when you get it, when at least deer get it. So
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Excellent.
Tanner, I know I
Oh.
missed my window to get in.
Oh.
I apologize profusely. I really am sorry. But I did want to ask, because I have seen your presentation before, and this question has been burning, and so I want to slip in an extra question. Have you ever been bitten by any of the dogs?
Many times. Many times. I've been bitten by a blind dog. Yeah, it's not fun. But I feel like that actually has helped me with like outside of work things. Like there's been dog fights in my neighborhood that I've been brave enough to stop and separate. And I had a hole in my hand from getting bitten. So it's not fun, but I did learn a lot from it, I guess.
Did you learn if you
lesson.
get a wedding ring not to wear it on the job?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't wear earrings.
No. My goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can appreciate those things. Cool. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Oh, I should do the door. I'm sorry. I didn't want to interrupt you. I'm really sorry. You looked very confident. I know. I was like, I'm going to flip it in.
Oh, I see, sorry.
Sorry, guys.
Hey.
I'm really sorry. I wish you told you, oh, you don't have to, but I'm really glad you were here, so.
Oh, did we take off? I thought I took off a different one. I thought I was here too.
Yes, yeah, you worked out really well.
She did
Would you
remove one
like
of them.
to
I
give
forgot
some-
to erase it off my calendar.
I think Joseph, you can stay. Yeah, I think it's okay.
For joking on you guys, you can stay.
Yeah, I think he's okay to like stay.
Joseph, it's up to you.
Well, Melissa's not here, so if you want to.
Because
Okay.
we have you as an alternate, so, you know, I think that works.
Okay,
Thanks.
Joseph, if you want to.
Who do I give that to you?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So actually officially, we don't start for 6 more minutes, but we're not gonna make them wait that long. But what we do, it is good just to take a few minutes to kind of recover and.
And are you the person who sets up our next slideshow?
Oh, I will.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is your first year doing this, right?
Yeah.
And you did.
No, no, Miss Stevens actually just stepped out, and so, I didn't.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh,
You're
don't touch
hamming.
it. Yeah,
That's
don't
called
touch.
hamming. Good
Yeah.
job. Yeah.
You can ham as long as you don't touch.
Okay, that's not you.
Yeah, I think I emailed mine to Miss.
Okay. Yeah, she didn't give me instructions on how, but I will find it. It'll
I
just
mean-
take me a minute. It's no problem.
I
Just give
could
me a
just
second.
give like an oral presentation.
Oh, we'll find it, or if we have to find her,
No
let's
problem.
track her down.
No
Don't
problem,
worry.
I got it. Just give me a minute. Did you upload it to Schoology also, or just email?
Just email.
Just email.
Okay. Yeah, I'll
I
find it.
think my Schoology got messed up.
No problem. Did you send it from your Compass Charter account?
No, my home account, since I don't have
Does it start
access to
with
my
music?
Compass Charter.
Yep.
Yeah, it
Okay,
starts
got
with music. too.
No problem.
That for
Okay, it looks like you sent one like a week ago, and then you sent one today, and it's the edited version. Got it. Okay, so just be a second.
And if you want to look over your notes real quick, take a few minutes to kind of get yourself reflected and ready.
I don't know.
Is there a clicker up there for you to use
Yeah,
with the
right
slides?
here.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so in just a second, we should be able to test it out. All right, cool. Give me a second to sit down. Feel good? All right, let's do it.
So hi, my name is Joseph Gardner. This is my senior project for the year. Okay, so the metaphor I chose for my senior project was comparing high school to writing software. It's not really creative, but I digress. So when you're writing software, you first need to figure out the purpose of the program you want to create. Then you plan out how the program will function, how it will work. Finally, you implement your plan and code. My high school journey was like writing software. My purpose was to finish high school so that I could get a good job and get into the college of my choice. My plan was to figure out what classes I should take and take them and do my best in my classes. And I implemented my plan by taking and finishing the classes I needed throughout high school. So the first artifact I'd like to show off was my apprenticeship. During last summer, I worked at the Idaho Youth Ranch. During my time there, I organized the shelves, stocked shelves, handled donations, and during that work experience, I was able to learn how to get along with my coworkers and learn how to follow directions. Well, that's not really a good example, but just learning how to I
learned how to like follow the follow the training that I've been given, but overall it just like helped plant the seed for me for maintaining a growth mindset in my life. Is it helped give me a work ethic. Moving on, I'd like to talk about my art project. During I think it was last year, we had an art project where we had to create a sculpture of a monster from the sketch and design phase to all the way up to sculpting modeling phase. I just did an evil mushroom. It's not really deep or insightful, but it was fun to make at least. But the experience in art not only taught me new useful art techniques, but it also showed me how to use my growth mindset in the process of learning how to do all these art-related things and how to stay focused and to live with your mistakes. Finally, I'd like to move on to my math artifact. These are two tests that I took over the years, one from Math 3, one from my calculus class. So here's a little anecdote from my experience at high school. During Math 3, for most of the school year, I wasn't really paying attention that well or following along with the rest of the class, and to the point where the teacher, Miss Gregg, said that I wouldn't be allowed to go into the pre-calculus and calculus classes, since she said that she thought I wasn't being like a pre-college student or something like that. Mm-hmm. I wasn't acting like I was getting ready for college. So what I did is I took the initiative and I talked with Miss Gregg about how I really wanted to get into the calculus classes. And so she agreed with me that she would be willing to let me into the pre-calculus and calculus classes if I paid attention and stayed focused and followed along with the class for the rest of the year, and just generally showed that I could act like a college-ready student. And so I did, and by the end of the year, Miss Gregg said she'd be willing to let me into those classes, and this year I'm finishing up my calculus class. And so overall, this experience, my experience with math classes throughout high school has taught me how to, I suppose, obtain mastery over a subject and utilize my work ethic to do so. Moving on, I'd like to conclude with the statement that I feel that high school, or taking high school at Compass Public Charter School, has prepared me for the real world in several ways through my experiences up there, such as the requirement for the apprenticeship gave me the opportunity to work at the Idaho Youth Ranch and gain valuable job experience and communication skills or soft skills. And my art classes showed me the importance of using a growth mindset in daily work and the benefits you can see from doing so, and in my math classes, has taught me the importance of like a work ethic and how it can help you master a subject. And, just because of all these experiences at Compass Public Charter School, I feel like I am ready for whatever lies ahead in the future. That's the end of my presentation. My apologies for it being a bit short. If I'm being honest, I didn't really know what I was doing for most of my senior project work time. I didn't really know what I was supposed to do, so I guess what I'm trying to say is I hope you like it, even though it might not have been what was expected.
So, Joseph, I am really proud of you that you persevered even though I know this was hard. This was a hard project for you to get together.
Yeah.
But you did not give up, and you stood up there very composed and presented your presentation, and I think you were super articulate, you had a good pace. So deep breath, the hard part's over, right?
Thank you.
Okay. Maybe I'll let you go ahead and I'll ask a question while they're kind of working on numbers. So tell me, what is kind of where you see yourself in 5 years? You know, I know you don't know for sure, but where are you thinking? Where would you like to be in 5 years?
Well, I don't know. This might be depressing to say, but I don't know if where I'd like to be is the same as where I see myself in a few years. Okay. But sorry, I digress. But anyway, I'm hoping to see myself at college studying electrical engineering or integrated circuit engineering, physics, stuff like that.
Okay. So if where you want to see yourself.
Sorry. Yeah, actually, you're right. I think my experiences at Compass have shown me that even though I may not think I can get to where I want to be, if I utilize my growth mindset and work ethic skills, it's very likely that I can get there.
Okay, that 1,000,000%. Because if you kind of have in your mind that you might not be where you would ideally like to be, but you sound like you know the path of how you can get there, right? Good.
Sorry.
No, don't apologize. But I want to see you do it.
Thank you.
I want to build on what Nassim just said, because like I was very touched by what you just said, and then also earlier when you mentioned soft skills. So my question for you is this: looking into your future and wanting to be very successful, which I totally think you will be, what do you think would be the best way that you personally could help yourself continue to grow in those skills which will help aid your success? How do you feel like you can consciously go about continuing that process?
Yeah. Well, I think what I need to do is one, to have a clear goal in mind of where I want to go. I almost lost my train of thought. I need to create logical steps on how I can reach my goal, and then finally I need to just utilize my growth mindset and work ethic skills to take those steps to reach my goal.
I totally agree with what you said, and I think those are very good, and I'd like to add one more just as a suggestion, is to find
another thing is just above all, I need to step out of my comfort zone.
That is fantastic, and I'm so glad you said that, because I wasn't thinking that, but you're right. That's so important. I was going to add further to find a mentor or an
Yeah.
accountability partner, somebody who will help you stick with that, your clear written goals and your steps, and encourage you to keep stepping out of your comfort zone, because I see fantastic things for you, but we can't do it alone, basically, Yeah.
So Joseph, just knowing you over the years, you are very innovative. You are always coming up with things in your mind that you want to do and
Yeah.
can do. So let me just ask you this question. It's a good thing. So if you could invent anything, tell me what you would invent.
I don't know. Well, I do have several ideas.
I know you do. I know you do.
I guess if you want to know off the top of my head what I thought of, ideally what I would like to create is, again, keep in mind this is kind of dumb and kind of a joke, but an EMP device that could spread across the whole globe to take down the internet.
Oh no.
Oh.
Yeah, I feel like the internet has done so much damage to humanity.
Okay.
Maybe you could work
I
for
see that.
DARPA, because I'm sure that there's a need for some of their skills
like
and
Lockheed
desires.
Martin or something.
Just do it legally.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I don't know.
go
I kind
solo.
of feel like committing global cyber terrorism isn't something you can really do legally.
Maybe counterterrorism.
Okay,
Yeah.
but
But
I guess
keep going with that because
I guess
there's damage.
oh no.
Yeah.
I guess in all seriousness, I guess I wouldn't say I'd like to invent something or this isn't a thing that I'd like to invent, but I'd like to create and implement better internet etiquette skills, or like internet, or like I don't know, just decent computer classes that teach kids the dangers and pitfalls of using the internet and how to.
Perfect. I think
That's
that-
really important.
Yeah, I
Wow.
think that's a
Yeah.
noble goal. I like that. Good.
Thanks again, Joseph.
Sorry for that. If I'm being honest, those answers were kind of random.
So this is a time just for you to learn. You don't have to be honest.
Okay.
Hold it in.
Or-
Tell mom, tell
Act-
us later, but to your judges or your professors someday. No, because you rocked it. So
Okay,
own it.
thank you.
Yeah,
And
seriously.
let that be,
Or-
let that be good.
Actually, sorry, I changed my mind. Okay, if there was one thing that I could do that I feel would be like really beneficial to society, it would be to repeal or at least heavily reform the DMCA, or the Digital Millennium Copyright Act.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I know. I've just done. I know it kind of ties into like what I wrote for that essay, but the DMCA has done a lot of harm to the security research field and the internet. Although it's a bit of a misnomer that it's just the law that criminalizes piracy, essentially. Although it does do that, it's also been used against security researchers who like expose vulnerabilities in proprietary software and
I'm so sorry.
hardware like Intel CPUs.
So is that what you did for your research paper?
I don't know. It was more about like the history of file sharing and stuff.
Oh.
Yeah.
One more time?
Yeah.
Vanessa Ludan.
Sorry, I'm going on a lot of tangents. I've been staying up really late lately for the past few days, and I've gotten sick. So sorry if I've been a bit delirious or
So despite all of
schizophrenic
that,
sounding.
you did good. You did good.
Okay.
So don't
Okay,
apologize.
thank you.
You did a good job.
Yeah, that's it. I'll
You
stop
did it.
talking.
Yep, good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you everyone who's still here, concluding our wonderful day of senior presentations. Thank you for your support, those of you who've come and celebrated this with us. Horrible.
I did so much better. I did so much better practicing.
You did great. No, actually, at the beginning, I was like, and the next thing you know, you're rolling. And it's like,
What was my time, do you know?
I don't.
Why would you ask me that? Just kidding. Who wouldn't? You can come in, Mr. Nelson.
No, this looks better.
Trust me.
That's a good shot right there. Hey, Joseph.